There you go. Can you hear me?
Yep. Right. Yo, what up? Hold on, should I put it? Check. Y'all hear me? Okay. Oh, hold on. Here, I'll put your fucking avatar up there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
All
you.
right.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Can
can
you hear
y'all
me?
hear him,
Test,
chat?
test.
Oops. Oh, let's. Alright, we're gonna watch that shit later. Special guest, chat. You guys are familiar with this poster. You guys are probably not used to the early stream, huh? We've gotten like we just slowly crept later and later, and now it's like I'm fucking struggling to get on by 2 my time. Okay. All right. Cool. Everyone should be able to hear you. Let me put up the thing. Where's you? Fuck. It's just Gandalf. Um. Okay. Okay. Mm, Where the fuck?
Yeah. Gandalf's fine. I
Okay.
think my Twitch name is Gandalf underscore El Antifascista, and my
That's,
Twitter account is Gandalf underscore El
uh,
Pulpo.
okay. Here, I'll put the Twitter one. What is it? Underscore?
Gandalf underscore El Pulpo. It's ELPULPO.
P-L-P-U-L-P-O. Oh,
For anyone
P-U-L-P.
wondering, that's
U-L.
Spanish for the octopus.
El Nino is Spanish for the Nino. Okay. Um, oops. I just made it upside down. Fuck. How did I do that? Oh no. I flipped it. I don't know how I did that. Shit. Okay. Okay. We got any haters in there early? No? Okay. Yeah. It's kind of tough to say when the fucking debunkers are gonna come in, but um I feel like I've done a pretty good job fending them off, but you know, it's like nice to be reinforced here. No, that one. Let's put a new one up.
Just a heads up.
Yeah.
You may see me dropping a couple times joining back because my Discord, like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't use it like that whole much, and it
Yeah.
keeps like locking up, freezing up, and I can't unmute my mic. So
No,
if you
yeah,
see me drop down, I'll just be right back.
we're pretty chill here. Like that's kind of why we don't have guests on so much anymore because I'm fucking, so late. Um, but these guys are it's pretty cool crowd in there. You can set it straight. Okay. And where did I just save that shit? Where the fuck is that? Ooh, where the fuck did I just put that? Okay, there's. All right, cool. There you are. All right. Hey, look who it is. What's a Morgwai?
What's that? A
Red Maze
Morgwai?
just subscribed with
Yeah.
Prime.
Dude, Red Maze, longtime supporter. What's up? Um, yeah. Like I said, this communism and crank shit. So there's some people who are more so here for the communism, and some who are more here for the crank shit. And I feel like we have a nice symbiosis, though. Um, we have been probably not paying as much attention to this flap at first as I would like, but the last few nights I feel like we've tried to double down. Um, the Chinese aren't sending drones, they're sending demons. I mean, like I said last night, I want look, I welcome whoever that is. If it's the Chinese, like good, they can liberate us. If it's the fucking, the aliens, then them too. Like I at first I kind of was like, you know, not really sure. I thought maybe because I heard what's his name, um, the who's the detective guy from the debrief. I heard him on that podcast, and he seemed really certain that it was Russia. But like the longer it went on, the more I was like, wait a minute, that's just lib shit. That's not it, right? And the reasons why they state for that are bizarre because I know some people are like, oh, it's actually China because Russia's not advanced enough, which I also think is a bullshit rationale. And we're also not at war with them, you know? Um, Russia has plenty of good reason to want to fuck with us, you know? I mean, China does too, but like, you know, the confluence of events where it's like there's an escalation in Ukraine and there's a, fucking, you know, um, uptick in violence in Syria, um, and, some saber rattling with the nukes. Then they start fucking, well, I guess they were posted up over Langley before that, right? But they went to Lincoln Heath after they moved the nukes there, which I think that makes a lot of sense. But then I heard Ross Coulthart last night, and I'm kind of, go back and forth on him. Most of these guys, I never know what to think, but like Coulthart was saying, it's NHI has been trying to fucking get in touch with us for 100 years, and they've been cockblocked by the deep state the whole time. And perhaps this was them trying to go around them, you know, like you know, show people like the equivalent of landing on the White House lawn, but like, you know, we talk about that a lot. Like they can't do that because there's the fucking psychos that run our country and they would fucking blow them out of the sky, right? Um
Okay, I had to drop and come back.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
sorry. I was just giving you a rundown where I was on this. Like, um
Yeah,
did you hear most of
I
that?
think I heard most of it. Yeah, I think I heard most of it. I think I only missed the last like 10 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, like I heard Ross Coulthart's theory, and that actually makes a lot of sense. Um So I mean, I think it could be like I don't think it's a foreign country. I think it's either us or the NHI. You know, um, I think Coulthard. Did you see his theory? Did you see we don't usually watch his show that much, but for once we watched it and it was pretty fucking good. Like he's got some
Um,
good info. It sounds like
yeah.
he said. Okay,
This
so
week's
like
been so busy. Yeah, I think I missed it. I think I had his watch halfway through. It's basically just him this week, right? He's answering a bunch of
yeah,
questions from chat.
yeah. The
Yeah,
second
no, I
half
think I
when he
have that.
answers the questions, I thought was really informative. And
Yes, yeah. So I only got through the first half, so I probably missed that.
actually, you know what? We can probably well I showed it last night, just to like bring it back up, but um, here he basically says he thinks it's like them trying to go around the deep state, like the secret keepers, right? It's them trying to contact humanity and sort of like ping us and pick up, um, the telepathy thing, right? Which again, I was really
Mhm.
dubious about until I heard that podcast, and now I'm super convinced.
Treason.
Oops.
That's what we're
Okay.
and conceals UFO and alien evidence. Who does this and who carries
Hold on.
on with this suppression in
Can you hear
successive
that?
generations? Who heads and operates this covert and secret organisation? Okay, let me be on the level here and say that if you'd asked me that
Can you hear
question
him?
You're
three or
asking
four
me.
years ago, I
You
would
can
have
If you're
hear?
thought
asking
you
me, I
were a
can't.
raving
Can chat
lunatic,
hear
a
me? Hello.
tinfoil
Yeah.
hat
Can you hear
nutter.
Ross?
I know
Can you hear Coulthard?
Yeah, yeah. Let me unmute my TV. I'll listen to this
Okay.
part.
Sorry.
think your question is entirely reasonable because I do believe that there is a cabal of individuals, and they are individuals. They're not departments or entities. They are individuals, carefully selected individuals, who believe that they are entrusted with a national secret and they're determined to keep it, even if it's operating illegally in defiance of the oversight rules of Congress. I think there are people in the US Air Force who know full well that we are being visited by a non-human intelligence. How do we explain the statement that was made by Dr. John Kozlowski, the new and very well...
I mean, this whole thing is on point, but there's one part where he specifically...
Next question. At DAARK, at Dark982, question for Mr. Coulter. What is your take on why the NHI do not just reveal themselves? Do you agree with the idea that there is an agreement for delayed or complete non-disclosure? Because if true, I would find that to be somewhat confusing behaviour on behalf of the NHI. I also think that if they were waiting for us to be ready, that maybe we wouldn't be seeing them in our skies, or maybe at all. Thanks for the work you do and hoping to hear your thoughts. Okay, Mr. Dark. I think there's a really interesting explanation that I'm beginning to hypothesize. This is only a speculative hypothesis on my part, but it is based on work that I am doing that is increasingly focusing on what I believe is a consciousness connection to the UAP phenomenon. I do think that there is a link between what we call psychic phenomena, telepathy, or psionics, as is the more neutral term that's used by the military and the defence community. I do believe that there is a connection between human psionic abilities, telepathic, psychic abilities, and consciousness, and that the UAP phenomenon is tied into that. And I suspect this is one of the largest reasons for why this is being kept secret and for why the NHI are not overtly showing themselves. And my growing hypothesis, it's just a hypothesis, because there's a few things I can't tell you right now that I'm going to be reporting on in coming weeks, and I'm very excited to be bringing you that story. But I do know that the Air Force has been working on psionics for many, many decades. They never stopped investigating the power of the human mind and consciousness ever since the Stargate program and the remote viewing program. I know it's been poo-pooed. I know there's a George Clooney movie based on John Ronson's book called The Men Who Stare at Goats. And I know all the supposed debunkers say it's BS. But I can tell you, it's not BS. I've seen it for myself, and it's real. And in forthcoming weeks, you will see why I say it's real. And I believe the United States Air Force has knowingly deceived Congress, successive presidents, and the American public, and the world about what it knows for far too long. It's time for this story to be told. Now, coming back to the question from Mr. Dark, I think the NHI are showing themselves in our skies to twig our consciousness, to make us humans aware of capabilities that many of us don't even realise we have. And I've seen those capabilities demonstrated in recent months. I know they're real, and I frankly don't give a flying fig what the debunkers or the skeptics or the trolls would say about that. It's real, and they will soon be eating humble pie.
Dude, I can't wait for them to eat humble pie.
The mind to engage externally with some kind of uber consciousness has been speculated about in science. Go and have a look at the work on microtubules.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what science is speculating about a quantum connection between the human brain and an external consciousness.
We're big microtubules fans over here.
That's where we're going in this. So what if UAPs are merely a manifestation of something that is above and around us, a consciousness? Some might call it God. Yeah, I know, this is heavy stuff. But what if the purpose of its engagement with the human race is to slowly twig our awareness and to encourage us to use abilities that we don't even know we have? I'm very interested in hearing from people who were part of the GATE program 20 to 30 years ago, who found themselves in rooms with US Air Force officers and strange psychologists in white lab coats, showing them on occasion strange, apparently non-human objects. Yes, this has been happening. Young kids, prepubertal kids,
Yeah.
have been
I mean,
misused in experimentation by our military in experiments designed to develop an understanding of how to engage with the phenomenon,
the phenomenon,
with
dog.
a consciousness.
PPG tried to save Assad. Yeah, why you failed. Why can't it be Chinese psychics? I mean, it could be Chinese psychics controlling the fucking drones or the mystery objects, right? I don't know. Did you hear that? What do you think?
Yeah, I heard I had to mute my TV again. Someone
Yeah.
had me
I mean, I
half
don't
mute.
know if it's
Yeah,
like Tukar says in chat, like it's kind of a big leap, right? Like there's any China in the skies. It doesn't necessarily link to the, psi research. But like it's a pretty good hypothesis in terms of like it's an escalation in terms of like the showing themselves to us aspect, right? Um, like I frequently say on here, I don't think you can really go with like, oh, it's us doing, trying to do disinfo for some reason because it doesn't really fit, right? Because if Lou Elizondo had come forward in 2017, whoever the deep state types would have pulled him aside and been like, "Yo, shut the fuck up, man," you know. Um,
yeah,
and I
yep.
think that
And
they frequently drive a lot of this media cycle, kind of. This time is a notable absence, though, right? They do not know what to say, and they do not want anybody asking questions about this. And the shit that they're telling reporters is bogus.
yep, yeah, everything you said is 100% right. And um, give me
Also, the nukes,
and
right?
yeah, let me pull up my.
Like,
I don't
they're
know if I put
fucking
it in Discord,
frustrated
but let
with
me put it in my
us.
chat.
It's like, if I was them and
Yeah,
I was trying to contact Earth, and the whole time I was getting fucking shut down by these deep state douchebags, I'd be frustrated. Because we've talked about crop circles a lot, right? I feel like that could be an attempt at that, right? A similar sort of way to contact us without having the intercession of, intelligence people. This could just be another round of that. I understand that is a very, that's like, it's an optimistic, takeaway. I mean, there's also the whole aspect with the nukes. Like, they are fucking, we know that they've had a lot of incidents in the past with them interfering or interacting with our nuclear weapons. This that also appears to be part of this, at least, too, right? It's like a 2-for-1. I don't know, what do you think?
yeah, and it's funny you bring up nukes. I love Stanton Friedman. He always
Yeah.
said rockets, radars, and nukes.
Yeah.
I forget the order. Yeah, dude. I saw this posted. I think it was from Christopher Sharp from the Liberation Times.
Yeah. We
I won't
like
read the
him
whole.
too.
Yeah, me too, dude. He's
Yeah.
awesome. I won't read the whole article, but I'll just read like the headline a little bit.
Okay.
This was posted last January 29, so January 29th, 2024. So, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
shy of like 11 months ago. And it says RAF Lakenheath plans to
Mm-hmm.
progress to bring U.S. nuclear weapons to Suffolk. RAF Lakenheath started to deploy the latest generation F-35A Lightning II combat aircraft, which can carry nuclear bombs. So this last January, the U.S. already sent our nuclear capable, short range to medium range
Mm-hmm.
stealth bombers, the latest generation F-35. That's the A. I think there's three models, A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
They already have them out there. And then in the past 9 months, they already talked about bringing nuclear weapons over there. There's another article too that Sharp shared. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
like they are there. And then
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in the last 3 weeks? Boom, we see all this drone, quote unquote, drone activity or UAP activity explode over RAF Lakenheath, where they talked about having the nuclear capable F-35A. So I think that's a really big coincidence. What else can I say? I also don't think it's all drones too,
Mm-hmm.
because um, I looked at Newfork. You ever heard of Newfork, the
Yeah.
National UFO Research Center? It's like
Yeah.
a 501c3 or whatever. Well,
It's like the OG
I
one,
looked
right?
at yeah, the OG one. I just personally I prefer them over MUFON, but I looked
Mm-hmm.
at their reportings in November of this year and December of this year. So there's not a whole lot for December, but in November, I looked it
Mm-hmm.
up. They had like close to 300 sightings. Not all of them are drones. So right there, we already have, firsthand witness, people on the ground stating that, yeah, some are drones, but some aren't drones. I don't have the exact numbers yet. And
And
then,
at Lakenheath specifically?
yeah,
Okay.
at Lakenheath, yeah, both. And then a weird thing too, dude. There was a guy, I can't remember his app, but I know he's on Twitter still.
Mm.
He lived by Lakenheath in England, and he started recording live on YouTube, and then his YouTube channel just went down,
Oh, that
like the
Liberty
second
something or
day.
other?
Yeah, I found that to be weird. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. I just found that to be weird. But there's multiple
Yeah.
people out there that were recording stuff. But from what I hear, it's starting to kind of die down a little bit over there. But I'm still hearing a lot of activity on the East Coast here.
Yeah, Jersey is
Of the state.
crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
I had a couple of theories I was playing with, like, because I know that the Air Force has supposedly done work on, like, some sort of like plasma thing, right? Where it's like programmable plasma type shit, where they can sort of like shape it and um use it like they probably have like a little tiny little like spear or something that is emitting the plasma, but then they can like basically it can be a decoy for anything in the sky, right? It could look like a plane or a drone or whatever, kind of like this shit. But I also think that that could just be cover. Like they put out these sort of because I saw it on some channel. They were going through like declassified documents from the Air Force that showed that's what work they were doing. I feel like that kind of paper trail could be deliberately put out there just because they know what the NHI is doing and they want to have some sort of plausible deniability for it. Because I don't think anybody like this type of shit we're seeing. These things are like, I they're shape shifting, right? They're like changing shape, and I don't know what we would have to be able to do that with like man-made tech, you know. And it's like,
yeah,
especially okay, if it's another country, then why are you just sitting here watching them, right? Why are you not doing anything? That doesn't really jive. Like, I think it's got to be either us doing some sort of fucking either it's like an inter-deep state fucking back and forth. I saw that theory today, which I've been playing with, but I can't really make that one work. Like it's the sort of like the establishment, Biden's people, trying to fuck over Trump on their way out the door. Um, I mean, I don't really see that one though. Um, but the fact that they show up over Langley first and then Lakenheath, I think is really intriguing. Like, it seems that if it's the NHI, it seems like they have an understanding of the sort of social dynamics here, which is good to know, right? Mm.
yeah. And speaking of Langley, I wasn't there in person, but I recorded it live for 2.5 hours. I don't know if you saw my post the other day,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in Maryland, and like it's really close to Virginia Langley, and
Mm-hmm.
I forget the exact name of the place, but I have it in my records. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
someone else, one of my followers, likewise followers, we follow each other. He posts something like, "Yeah, there's something weird on this webcam," and so I'm looking through the webcam. The webcam is in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, right by the bay. I'm not really familiar there, but it's right by the bay, and it's facing
Mm-hmm.
east. So it's facing east toward all the boats and stuff. You can see all the boats out there. Well, dude, literally, I recorded two fucking UFOs. Sorry to curse. I
You
can't
can
remember if you
curse.
curse a lot on here or
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
but
curse all you want.
yeah, I saw two freaking UFOs. One of them was like the turned sideways flying saucer, just like we see on
Okay.
other accounts. And
Classic.
yeah, and
Vintage.
yeah, like the vintage ones. And but basically, I had the exact location within like 30 feet, dude, because I had the webcam, and it was not the moon. It was the trajectory, the way it was going. It was facing east,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going uh like east, and then it was going, starting to set off of the, starting to go like downward. And so if it was the moon was going actually upwards toward the west. And I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on. Also, I have other accounts too that are not just on the East Coast and not in the UK. There are other
Yeah, they're all over,
countries
right?
that are all over. Yeah, all over. And another one too, dude. I didn't record this, but someone I found it on the Reddit Seattle page, but it was someone in Seattle, and I think it was in the south side of Seattle, so which is really close to
Puget Sound?
SeaTac.
Or no? Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is in Puget Sound, and it's really close to what's it called? famous case, the Maury Island. You heard of the
Oh
Maury Island
yeah,
case?
the Maury Island case is a classic, man. There's like deep state fuckery with that one too, right? Like they had people go out there
Hmm.
and try to fuck with the witnesses and sort of confuse people. Yeah. See,
Yeah,
whenever they have instances like that, it's a huge red flag. That's why I thought crop circles were so interesting, right? Because they had them, the Doug and Dave thing was very clearly some sort of fucking cover up that was sloppy. So it's like, why are you so concerned about this? Like, that's a huge giveaway. So I think Maury Island's a great case for that reason. Yeah. Um,
yeah, yeah. It's a really good case, really interesting. But and this week, I think it was on the 4th. I'll probably get some of the dates wrong because it's like
mhm.
us, there's so many sightings. But this
Yeah.
one was either, I think it was 3 days ago, so that would have been like the 4th.
Okay.
It was in the south side of Seattle, and it was one of those gunmetal like gray orbs. There's
Okay.
no protrusions or nothing
Mhm.
coming off, and it
San
shoots right
Diego one.
across the front. Yeah, yeah, yep. And it shoots right across the front of a Chinook. Those double helicopters. They have the blades in the front, blades in the back. They're kind of
Yeah.
used for like transport,
Mhm.
carrying people. Yeah, and I found that one posted. That's definitely not a drone.
Yeah.
If it is a drone, then it would be a deep state or a classified,
Mhm.
or like you said, China or something. But I
Mhm.
don't personally think it's China, because we've seen videos when people are in people, as I say, people when we see U.S. military soldiers at bases, if they see something flying around, they're freaking shooting those suckers, dude. They're unloading their magazines. They're just clipping and shooting everything down out of the sky.
Yeah,
So, and I've
exactly.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't buy the whole. It's all of them are drones and all of them are state actors. I think that some of them could be definitely a potential, but yeah, it could also be what you said. It could also be like it's psyop or whatever. Like they're using them or they're the infighting. Who knows, man? But it's very strange, nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, there's been like just in general, there's been an uptick in sightings, right? Like there's either that's more people. I mean, I don't know if Gary Nolan's mentioned this, but like he talks about like that thing in your brain, right? That section of your brain where he sees like an enlarged version of it in experiencers. It could be just that like more people are developing that gene or just raising their consciousness or whatever. I feel like I've been saying this like shit that like Stephen Greer said and I fucking made fun of. I feel like a lot of that I'm kind of eating my words now. Like he seems like he's been pretty fucking accurate this all along if we just fucking take him at his word. That whole sort of like the planet has to raise our consciousness kind of thing. Like I was never too big into that. Like but the more I think about it, the more that really kind of fits. It's like if they're trying to contact us for whatever reason, right? And all they keep running into these roadblocks, you know, like, okay, we're going to have to try to encourage these, this gene or this sort of mutation or whatever, or this rediscovery of could have been that everybody used that shit back in the day and then we somehow forgot it. I mean, that's why Bob Grenier is the guy I was telling you about. His research is really interesting to me because it's sort of like a cold fusion thing, but it's like a low-tech version of it that is completely plausible to have existed in the ancient world, right? Because we've always been wondering about that shit, like the fucking... Some of that ancient stuff is like, how does that so precise? How is that precision? Like, how do they do that shit that we would have a fucking really hard time with now? But it couldn't really think of any technology where it could have existed and then somehow gone away, right? Except for this
Yeah.
is fucking fits perfectly. So like I heard the telepathy tapes and the next day I heard him and that 1-2 punch is really fucking I feel like everything I don't want to say every question's answered because it's obviously not, but like I feel like with those bits of information I can answer a lot of the bigger questions that I feel like I had, right? Just about like how we got to where we are, and it's like I don't want to be like delusions of grandeur or whatever. Like I feel like I've been very careful. I've been doing the stream for several years now, and I've never made any fucking like proclamations or predictions or whatever. Until I started like the last couple weeks, and now I'm fucking super pilled on it. mRNA vaccines are a gene therapy trying to activate the brains of humans to elevate the consciousness. But I mean, in this scenario, they wouldn't want that, right? Like the deep state types, they want to keep us subjugated, right? But the way I see it, they don't want anything to change at all, right? They want to keep us exactly as it is. You know, people being ignorant and fighting with each other and sort of, you know, busy working all day and shit like that, right? CO2 is big.
Yeah. Yeah, and all their trillions in profits for all the peripheral, technologies that they make. Yeah, so they're not going to hand that over for free. Hell no.
Yeah, prevent block the brain. Yeah, that, right? Exactly. I mean, I think that's more plausible, Tukes. I mean, what were you thinking? Like, has this been, I don't know, what was your general fucking theory of the case, let's say 6 weeks ago?
Which case? You mean like just
the
overall,
the
like
phenomenon,
what's going on? Well, so I think, well, it's kind of hard because I don't think.
Have one?
Yeah, well, I do have a theory, and I have my own personal theory. But let me pull this up. Retired Colonel, like last year, he had the what's it called, at the Soul Foundation. He did the 2023 Soul stuff on slide 36. He did a proposed taxonomy of UAP origin hypothesis.
Yeah, I remember
basically what that is. Yeah. So it's just basically, for anyone who doesn't know in chat,
pull it up. Hold on.
Yeah, it's that tree basically that shows different hypotheses. What I personally believe is that that UAP is not one of those. I think it's like a shotgun, and you shoot on there, and it's a spray pattern, and we're facing like multiple. We could be facing 8, we could be facing 20. I don't know. I think we're for sure facing multiple because some stuff physical, some stuff's not, and there's so many different shapes and sizes and colors and different accounts,
right?
That I don't think it can personally be one thing. It's like you look at humans. You look at, if you go and grab a human from every different planet, you go, and no one had any context. You're like, oh yeah, they're all Canadians. You're like, well, you have no context, and they're all human. They all look similar, but they're all not similar. Like we're all human. But I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah.
I mean, but like the origin of it, though, right? So like, you do think there's definitely NHI in the mix, because it's like this Bob Grenier research, that and the telepathy. Between the two of those, I thought it was, for a couple days there, I was like, seriously entertaining the idea that there was no NHI, and it was just sort of like human cult type deals, like, you ever heard that stuff like NIMSY or NIMSA? It's people associate it with the airship flap in 1898.
I may have heard a little bit about it.
It's basically like a group of like gentlemen, like inventor, like dudes who wear 3-piece suits and make like do like balloon experiments and stuff. But a lot of people point to them for the airship flap in 1898, and it makes sense though. Like, if they were a group of rich, powerful people who were doing advanced research, who had the means and to do their own research, and who had the means to shut down sort of or control the historical narratives that develop, because they're obscure, right? Like, that's not a lot of people know about that, but it kind of fits the bill for sort of like the breakaway civilization hypothesis. Something like that, where it's just a bunch of rich guys who are like fucking, messing around with stuff, and either they knew the ancient fusion thing, or they came across it. Because I feel like in our research now, it's very limited in what people can get into. They're not allowed to follow up on a lot of like a lot of Bob Grenier's research is just taking other people's results throughout history, where they had like anomalous little things that they kind of just noted and moved on. He kind of collected all those anomalies up, and he kind of found a coherent, structure to explain all of them. I forget where I was going with that. I do this a lot. No, not DuPont. These are like West Coast. There were a lot of like German immigrants. Um, but I mean, so I was entertaining that these guys have just been ahead on the research and they've just been keeping it quiet, and that's the kind of stuff we're seeing after World War II. But then, like I said, this Ross Coulthard idea has got me fucking scrambling for that too. So like, I do think, I mean, the consciousness connection. I feel like there's too much weird shit, right? Like, there's like, too many things that I feel like are not very well explained by like just our basic model of like materialist physics, right? Like, I think you do need something sort of otherworldly or, you know, superhuman or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that is actually, that makes a lot of sense, you know, like, they've been interacting with us and say maybe, you know, the escalation has not been so much that they think we're ready or whatever, but that they're trying to contact us without being interfered with. And I think we've gotten more aggressive because there's no way in 1947, there's no way that we did not try to shoot these fucking things down every time we saw them, you know?
Oh no, yeah, no way. And then the Battle of LA, I have those
Yeah.
pictures stored on my phone where they literally shot at a disc and nothing happened. They just, nothing happened. I'm sure you know about the story.
Yeah. So then maybe Roswell's like an EMP or something.
Yeah. And
And
speaking of EMP, I have two EMP videos declassified from the Department of Energy that are up right now on NARA, the National Archives, the
mhm.
archives.gov. I have two EMP videos of them knocking out UFOs. So, and this is from
Holy
literally the
shit.
Department of Energy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I say to like the skeptics who come in here. It's like there is so much evidence throughout the years. It's like take your pick. What kind of evidence do you want? It's all there, you know. And I think
Mhm.
they, like the powers that be, obviously are just completely fine with you not following up on it. And a lot of this stuff is hidden in plain sight. You know, it's like it's there. It's just people do not validate it. Like the corporate media is really essential in sort of shaping people's worldviews. You know, like you can see the shit all the time, every day, and if you don't have sort of validation from external, you know, seemingly authoritative sources, you will doubt it. You know. Mm.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So
Have you, have
sorry, I
you,
interrupted you. You were telling me you're
oh, you're
coherent.
good. Quick question. Have you read Lou Elizondo's book yet, The Imminent?
I mean, I listened to it.
Okay. It's really good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. I just never know with like that crew, especially him, given his history and all. I mean, I thought that, but then the book I thought was really good and informative and sort of putting it out there. Like the idea that there's this sort of like struggle behind the scenes between the intelligence guys, that makes a lot of sense to me. Is it's like that's the thing I like about Coulthard's theory he just said too, because it explains everything. If he's correct, basically every event we've seen is it can be slipped into there. Between that and the fusion research I was talking about, like basically that's all the phenomenon we see, right? Is explained by the NHI, the deep state, and this sort of like propulsion technique that we're not familiar with. Which is why I like it. It's like no other theory really fits too much of it. It's like they're not like all the debunkers try to come up with these theories where it's like, oh, it's a distraction or whatever it is. None of those theories really work, right? Because so much of it is internally driven, but then it's not an internally driven narrative to shut it down, right? That's why I was like with Elizondo, I thought maybe he could be some sort of like limited hangout thing, sort of like Nick Pope, right? Where he's just like, you know, oh shit's crazy up there. Oh well, anyway, let's you know, we should ask them to fucking look into this or something, right? But then after I heard Imminent or I, you know, listened to the audiobook, I kind of backed away from that because I think he was legit there. I don't know,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, maybe Tom DeLonge's a useful idiot or whatever, or maybe they thought he would be. But I think his heart's in the right place too. No, I don't
Yeah. I
know.
think
Who
I
do you
think it
think
is.
is sus?
Um, for sure, Susan Go or Susan Goff, however you say her name. Did you watch the Senate hearing where
Mm,
Dr. Kozlowski was up there? He's the new
yeah.
director of Arrow. He was up there. He was
Mm,
not under oath, for the record. He was not under oath.
mm-hmm.
Susan Go is pulling her invisible leash on him.
Mm-hmm.
And the week before we saw it. I'm sure you were aware, but Lou Elizondo, Tim Gallaudet, and all the
Yeah.
other guys, they were all under oath. We all saw them put their hand up. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Kozlowski not under oath. So
Wow.
I think Susan Go for sure is. I've tweeted about this too before, and I have it documented. Let me see if I can pull it up. She wrote a paper. I think
Exactly.
it was
That's what I
her
was gonna
doctorate
say.
paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the psyop shit.
Yeah.
She loves. Yeah,
Fucking
she
with
loves
people.
having.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she loves fucking with people, and so she's definitely part of it. When you say the deep state, I have 9 groups. I believe I have 8 or 9 groups total that are involved with UAP or UFOs. So I have legit like their names of these groups that are
Yeah,
not
that's
just like
right.
yeah.
Wow.
And I'll name them. Ross Colder was like, we should
Yeah.
start naming people soon. I was like, oh, I'll start, shall we? And I just started naming people. Um, so it definitely, I agree with you that there's an ongoing faction battle, and I think Lou Elizondo, David Grush, Tim Gallaudet, all these gentlemen, and there are other whistleblowers. I think
Mm-hmm.
they're on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
This is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a good job. And what do we see is right after right after the next wave of whistleblowers go in um, under oath, we see Dr. Kozlowski, and we see his handler literally right behind him. Oh no, you can't go under oath,
Yeah.
because he's literally lying.
Oh, really? I
So
didn't see that part.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was not under oath. Yeah, and the room was empty, so that literally speaks for itself.
We always talk about how they play fast and loose with the NHI versus ET. Like they use those
Mhm.
specifically, right? Like when they say there's no evidence of aliens or whatever, it's like, yeah, because it's NHI. Like, we can't, nobody, like Grush himself, like Grush is pretty consistent about that. Like he doesn't say ETs or aliens or whatever. He says NHI because we don't know. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
obviously
we
the
don't
people
know.
who say they know everything are really suspicious. Like, it, there's also, I mean, we talk about the Jacques Vallée thing a lot too, the sort of control mechanism or whatever. Like the UFOs are just an emergent process of our reality, right? Like it's some sort of external force that's sort of trying to drive us in whatever direction. That kind of makes a lot of sense too. The way it's like it's consistently like a couple generations ahead of where we are. Like that story back in the day when the guy was like in the 50s and he saw like a rocket or something. I always think of that one. I don't know.
Oh, the ghost rocket or something.
No, not the ghost rocket. This was like it's um it's like an experiencer who saw like like a tall pointy like a NASA type rocket, but like a decade before we had them. Um that and like the airships, it's like interesting how those are anomalous craft in the sky that are, ahead of where they were at the time. I mean, I think that would kind of jive with the Jacques Vallée thing where it's like, you know, there's something that's trying to, spur innovation or whatever. 'Cause it's like once you know something is doable, you try to do it. But like
Yep.
that's not saying that external source is not NHI. It could be, right? Like it's just something. So like I don't know. I have a lot of like potential explanations, right, that I kind of keep in the back burner. And when a new piece of evidence comes in, I'll sort of see how it jives with those. And that like I just like to keep it open because I just don't know. It's like I think I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty skeptical, but I'm not insanely skeptical. Where like, if enough people are saying it, if there's enough evidence, I'm fucking, I'm gonna be convinced. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I have some couple points I was going to make.
Yeah, but
What you were mentioning.
mm,
So I have a document. Let me go to my notes. Hang on one sec.
yeah, take your time, do
Um,
whatever, because I'll just talk if you're not saying anything.
so basically, I have a couple documents from the last director was Sean Kirk, or he wasn't the. I think there was an intermittent one, but anyways, the last guy you all remember, Sean Kirkpatrick. Well, he used to work at what's now called SAIC.
Yeah.
It used to, it used to be called Lighthouse, but it was called SAIC. Well, prior to that, he had ties to the Department of Energy. 17 years old, and then he also worked for Brookhaven.
Mm-hmm.
Brookhaven is owned by Battelle. And then I have another document that goes back even further from Battelle, where they have from the Air Force that says samples were cut from discs you submitted in pie-shaped segments. And so I'll read that again. Samples were cut from the discs you submitted. So This is a document. Yeah, it's from the let me see the exact date. October 31st, 1949, from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And it's unclassified now, but basically what happened was Battelle, which Sean Kirkpatrick used to work for, Battelle Memorial Institute analyzed 2 samples of discs submitted to them at an unknown date. They did testing, and they found out that those 2 pieces cut from the UAP, or what they called discs, was called nitinol. Nitinol is I don't know if you ever heard of nitinol.
Yeah,
but
it's like memory metal.
Yeah, memory metal.
From
They're
Roswell.
talking about cutting and analyzing memory metal. Yeah, from Roswell, 1949. I have the declassified documents right here. I can send those to you in Discord. Yeah, I looked into all this stuff. So yeah, and there's definitely multiple factions. I know there's definitely corporations involved. I have an idea of who, but I'm not just gonna start, pointing names.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Oops,
I mean,
got my phone. But there's definitely some weird stuff going on. I know, I'm sure you heard Lou Elizondo talk about it and Tim Gallaudet, but there's definitely people or deep state actors in the background that don't want to give this stuff up for whatever reason. I think the easiest one is power, greed, and money. They want to keep their Wunderwaffe, their Nazi, fascist, wonder weapons.
Yeah.
They want to keep all that private money for themselves, and then whatever else.
No, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's just that, like, the stuff that they're investigating, right? Here's the thing. It's like, we don't necessarily know, like, there is some group or some presence that appears to be, more advanced than us, right? I mean, could this be, does Occam's razor say that that's more likely a group of breakaway humans, I mean, I think it kind of probably does, though, right? Like, what's more likely, that humans have been hiding technology from the other humans, or that it's another, being from another planet or whatever? I feel like that is kind of where I always get caught up, because it's like, that's something we don't have the, like, even if we have people seeing fucking aliens, right? Like, I don't know. I just, like, I don't know if I can confirm that, you know what I mean? Like, shouldn't this be on Rumble? No. I mean, I think that's a good, like, that is a pretty sturdy foundation, I guess. But, like, that part makes sense to me. Yeah, like, the whole framework that Coulthard laid out, that's the sort of dispute going on, right? It's just, who is that, right? Like, who are the people who are more advanced that were covertly studying and trying to keep quiet? It's like, I don't know, because I always try to have it be explained, like, I like it to explain the fucking ancient stuff, too, And,
oh yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
There's all that stuff you mentioned earlier we can't explain.
Yeah, like, the Anunnaki stories make a lot of sense, but then again, even when I talk about those stories, it's like, the Anunnaki that they're talking about is that, advanced humans who told them they were fucking from a farm, from another planet, right? So it's like, yeah, I think it's effectively non-human intelligence, though. I feel like that's probably,
Yeah.
And I think that, like, the technology to travel between the stars is, I don't think it's as hard as they pretend that it is, right? Like, I think it's
not
doable.
And the DIA, I think it was Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff and Kelleher, a couple other guys. They I'd have to look them up, but they did it under OSAP DIA, and I think before that. But they explained it. They can already do it in today's math.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the technology yet, but they already explained in the math that we could traverse to other universes, other galaxies,
Yeah.
wormholes, all this other stuff.
I mean, I just think about
Oh
it.
yeah,
It's what we would do, you know?
yeah, yeah. We would, and it's just like
Mm.
I watched the movie the other day, Interstellar. That's what we're trying to do there too. Like eventually, in a couple million or billion years, our star is gonna turn into a red giant. It's gonna start sucking up our planet. So we're eventually, not 20 but like a couple billion years, we're gonna have to move. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And
True.
earlier you were talking about the weird part of the brain. That's the quadrate putamen.
Medulla oblongata?
Yeah,
Mm.
and speaking of that, it's weird. When I was reading Lou Elizono's book, he mentioned the quadrate putamen, and he mentioned the study with Cherokee blood. Well,
Yeah.
guess who? Guess who here is Cherokee and has an enlarged quadrate putamen?
Who, you?
I do. Yeah, me.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've had MRIs done just because I've had a couple different issues with my neck and stuff. So I've had to get X-rays and MRIs and just certain things like that have came
Mm.
up. So when I read about it, I'm like, that's weird. Yeah, I'm part Cherokee. I'm part Cherokee and Blackfoot on my grandma's side.
Wow. Have you tried contacting anything?
Yes, I have tried. I have
Did it
actually
work?
done CRV coordinate. I call it CRV, coordinate remote viewing. It does work, which is weird. One of my friends on Twitter, he lost his wedding ring, and he
Mm-hmm.
just was like, he's in a remote viewing group. He's like, hey, can anyone in remote viewing help me find my ring? He started having people mention where he was last at, and he started getting really creeped out. And he told me that
Wow.
a remote viewer helped him find his ring. But I've looked into it. Remote viewing is definitely real. It's
Yeah.
very strange.
That's what I
I
mean.
started doing it. Yeah, I started doing it actually myself, just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because I read Lou's book, and him and Gary have talked about the large quadrate putamen and Cherokee. I was like, well, I got two of those checked off. I
Yeah.
might as well try.
Damn. That's what I mean. It's like the way I can it's like I'm dubious about stuff unless I can sort of fit it into like a sort of hard science framework, right? Um, and it's like the telepathy tapes threw me for a loop for a second, but then I connected it to like, okay, non-local consciousness, because we have all these NDE, the near death experiences, right? And those seem to have a lot of common elements, right? Which it's like we don't know where consciousness comes from, like the physicists don't or whatever, right? This is constantly being disputed, debated. New theories are always coming out about where consciousness originates from. I think, determining that it's sort of like beamed into us from somewhere else. That makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah,
because when
and
you're in anesthesia and all.
yeah, and there's actually studies done that have weighed our
Oh,
consciousness
that's right.
or our soul.
Yeah.
I forget what it is, but it's like something like 4 to 40 grams. I
Yeah.
was like 40 grams. I was like, damn, my soul weighs like a couple ounces, dude. That's sick.
I know. It's fucking. I mean,
Yeah,
I think no, I mean I think that makes perfect sense. So that all fits in, like if there's an Akashic records that people can interact with, because it's like when there's an idea that's been around since ancient times, I feel like there's something to it. It's like you can like put a little bit more credibility in it, and like if that's something people have been talking about reincarnation and karma and the Akashic records, you know, thousands of years, right? Um, so if that's kind of where we originate from, like we are etheric beings who, you know, are substantiate ourselves in human bodies for whatever reason. I mean, what's his name? Who's a Canadian guy? Graham something, I think.
Graham Hancock, I think. I'm
Not
horrible with names.
Hancock.
Yeah, I
I'll
forget.
remember. Whatever. There's a Canadian guy who's old timer, and he's on that tip, and I think that really fits. And I think that explains the telepathy. That explains the fucking like the ability to like, because he always cites this fact that like 80% of UFO abductees and experiencers they say at some point in their experience they knew everything, like they had access to every piece of information ever or whatever. Um, there's a word for that, right? Where you feel like you know every single thing there is. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I think that all fits if it's non-local consciousness and we're being, implanted in these bodies. We can still sort of interact with the larger outside world via our consciousness because of this. We all come from the same home base, sort of, right? I mean, that's how I explain remote viewing and, CE5. What do you call it? CRV?
yeah. I call it CRV because only
Hmm.
because that's what the SRI, the Stanford
Okay.
Research Institute, that's what they developed. That's what they called it. So I just call it CRV, coordinate remote viewing. You can call it
Okay.
like whatever. But technically, it's been around for thousands of years. Native Americans did similar thing. I think they called it like astral walking, but it was in
Oh yeah,
their own
astral
language, I
projection too.
believe.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know.
pretty much like just a scientific method that they just called it coordinate or yeah, coordinate remote viewing, where they basically will try to basically astral project and find coordinates or GPS coordinates. So they just use it for different purpose.
And it makes perfect sense why that is kept secret. It's like the more I find out, the more I'm sort of understanding why they're trying to keep it secret. Um,
Yeah, and one quick thing. Know who wrote and developed a lot of that stuff
mm,
is Dr. Hal Puthoff. I'm sure you've heard
yeah,
his name a bunch of times.
yeah,
And recently, I found out. Do you know who was in one of these studies at the Stanford Research Institute for CRV?
yeah.
Christopher Mellon. Chris Mellon.
Oh,
Yeah, but I think it was when he was in college or right after college. But yeah, I saw. I'm pretty sure he can do some. He can remote view, and I think Lou Elizondo, he mentioned it too in his book.
yeah. That was weird. I didn't see that coming. Um,
Yeah, super weird.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that explains it all. Like, I feel like, um, it's just like the aspect of them trying to like raise our the NHI trying to raise our fucking frequency or whatever. I mean, that explains why the secrecy is the way it is, right? Because people frequently say like, "Oh, how come we can't know about them existing, but not the technology they use?" Right? Because it's their mere existence is part of the cover up, right? Because you know they
Yeah,
are trying to keep us at low frequency, like just the fact that we know there's something doing this stuff, and it's a real physical phenomenon, I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for us that they would rather us not have, right? Um,
yeah,
I mean, I do think it's kind of inevitable at this point. I think like the research coming out, like I said, like with the plasma physics stuff, and the telepathy, I feel like this podcast is, it's only a matter of time. I feel like before like it's world shattering, earth shattering. Like for me personally, like I mean, because we hear the stories and we know that they've been doing research on this forever, but it was never too impressive. Like the Dean Radin type shit. It was always like, okay, you got 60% instead of 50%, right? These fucking kids, it's 99% of the time. Like they can, they could remote view, they can do whatever the fuck they want effectively. And it makes perfect
yeah,
sense why them who can't talk, or they're non-speakers. That's the thing. They're autistic kids who can't talk. And it would make perfect sense, like, because when your eyes don't work, your nose gets better. That kind of stuff, right? That they are just exploring like alternate pathways in the brain. And they came across it. And they feel like they probably don't have the kind of inhibitions. Like when I tried it, I tried to do like remote viewing one time, and I felt like I made a connection right away, and then it scared the shit out of me, and I've been too scared to try ever since. Because it just freaked me out. I don't know. Like I don't think that I do think that they are. It's not a malicious presence, Like I think maybe it is. Like we have some theories, some chatters about the what they're doing with us. Like are they raising us as livestock, right? Are they feeding off of our vibes, right? Is it like a level of technological know how they're trying to get us to before they fucking extract us, or what's the word, culling, right? Like, I don't think that's it, right? Maybe that's it, but like, I don't know, because I try to tie it back to the Anunnaki stuff. It's like those stories, they kind of end, like we were enslaved, but now we're not, and they're not here. They were here, now they're not. Like, what's the deal? Are they coming back, or are we? Is it like Stargate and we fought them off? It's like I was always mocking the soft disclosure stuff, but now I kind of think it's true. I think that they have been sort of putting these ideas out there to see how we react to them.
Yeah, and do you know who Dr. Harold Malgrim is? Have you heard?
I saw that name the other day. Yeah,
yeah.
I saw...
So he
go ahead.
He worked under JFK, LBJ, Nixon, I think Obama, but he was basically, I don't forget his exact position, but he's been what do you call it, like an advisor for a bunch of presidents all the way back to JFK. He's been he came out of nowhere, started talking all about a bunch of UFOs and stuff, and then Senator Mike Rounds, who's going to be, let me read my tweet. He's gonna he serves both of the Senate Intelligence and Armed Service Committee. He just sent out a newsletter, and in there he recently met up with Harold Malgrim, Dr. Harold Malgrim. So weird stuff going on in the background. So I think that's what I was going with it, with the whole soft disclosure. I don't like to use the word what's the other word? I can't think of a word. Not catastrophic, but what's the other word that they use other than catastrophic? I don't like that word because
Dolan says like confirmation.
Yeah.
That's what he's been saying. It's like, it's not going to be disclosure, it'll be confirmation. Which, I mean, I kind of feel like if Biden hadn't been so brain dead, they maybe would have, done some sort of limited hangout type deal. I feel like they don't want us to know the whole story, because I think it's really empowering, they're okay with letting us know some of it, but only if it makes us feel fucking dependent, like only if it makes us feel, like we still need them, like we're not, because I feel like understanding this cold fusion stuff and the telepathy stuff is really empowering and really powerful, and it makes perfect sense why they don't want anybody to know about that. Because then that also ties into the weirdness about the ancient past. Because it's like, if they were using this fusion stuff and they were using telepathy, we can't know any of it. So they have to just go with this full-on debunking. Like, none of it can be true, because even the slightest inclination of truth opens up so many worms. Like I said, just in the last few weeks, I feel like I have a newfound fucking, confidence and understanding of this shit that I never had before. Like, it feels really good. I mean, I'm sure something will shake it up, but like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I gotta give you this fucking podcast with Grenier on it. He was on that Matt Beal guy's show. You know him?
I think I know him. I'll have to check it out. I don't think I've seen that.
He kind of sucks. But he has like decent guests on his podcast, and like, I wasn't even going to listen to it. It just auto-played. Like, I was in the other room and my phone was playing, and the thing I was listening to ended, and then that podcast auto-played with this guy on it. And it's profound, man. Like, he was researching the Hutchison effect, right? So I saw him because of that, because I've been pilled on that for a while. Like, I think that's real, whatever the fuck he was doing. And this Grenier guy, he followed up on it and sort of like, took the claim seriously, because everybody was just trying to find ways to like call him a liar. And, I think that's really implausible when you look at all the details. So Grenier took it seriously and looked into it, and he connected it and saw that it was this certain type of fusion that was happening. It's incredibly powerful and incredibly easy to do. Were you tweeting some shit about those bubbles?
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me send you something too real quick.
I think that's the same tip.
Yeah, so that is weird. So that is basically, it's an enclosed area with water, and there's a gaseous bubble, and basically, it's called sonoluminescence,
Okay.
and what that word means is using sound waves and you like aim them at a gas bubble underwater, and you saw that video. It collapses, and when it collapses, it shoots out a fucking like sonoluminescence. It shoots out a beam of light, which is weird.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was super weird. So I tweeted that out, and
Yeah.
then and then I don't know if you saw my other one too. The image was generated where scientists believe it's like what a photon looks like. I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, that really reminds me of the stuff Grenier was doing.
I thought it was cool.
No.
I'm sending you this, Matt.
Okay.
So this is from the Department of Energy recently. So I forget what it's called. The UAP Disclosure Act, whatever it was. Remember it's like 2020 or 2021, whatever. When Trump was going out the door, remember he signed that thing. He's like, "Bam! All the UFO stuff's got to start coming out." And in that, I've been, I search about once a week. Well, I told you the videos earlier. I found 2 on there that are 2 declassified videos. I'm about to send it to you, but they're high altitude nuclear tests. So the Department of Energy and the Army and probably the Air Force, Navy,
like Starfish
mainly
Prime.
the Air Force. Yeah, Starfish Prime, and then the other one was bluegill triple prime.
Yeah.
And they detonated nuclear weapons up in the high atmosphere.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, you see UFOs just start falling to the ground.
Yeah,
well, this was
wow.
a classified program. Nobody knew about it unless you were in the know. So it wasn't a state actor. These happened in like the early 60s. So it wasn't a fucking drone, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't a balloon or a bird. But yeah, so I'll send you those videos if you want to check them out. And then
it's like in that Tom DeLonge book.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we just watched something on that last night. Yeah, I've always thought that. I mean, what year was that?
Let me look here. Let me put it in Discord first. I'll put it in your
Okay.
general chat.
Okay.
So those are both the videos, and those are from. So yeah, like we mentioned earlier, when some people ask, usually it's the debunkers. They're asking for data, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? Do you want 4K images? Do you want 180p? Do you want classified? Do you want declassified from the DOE? Like I have everything.
Wow. Okay.
I have my own too. And I mentioned earlier about near-death experiences. I had one too.
Oh, you did?
Years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that. Sorry, I'm looking at that video you sent. Holy shit.
Yeah, just watch that. Yeah, isn't that crazy? You see the pop, you see the EMP go off, and then you see something fall to the ground. That's literally a UFO, an unidentified flying object getting hit with a electromagnetic, microwave pulse.
Because you can see it's a physical thing there because you see the reflection off the explosion, right? So it's not like it's a gleam of light or something. And there's no way that, like, we didn't have drones at the time and nobody would be flying over there, because there's a test about to go off, right? Like,
and when they tested these EMP weapons, they wouldn't have planes up in the sky. They would like dig a hole in the ground. They'd build an apparatus that would put the plane, up off the ground, and they wouldn't actually have them flying because then they'd be killing, U.S. soldiers.
They're not dropping bromine in the atmosphere? Oh, I don't know. Maybe. What for?
The other one's crazy too. Yeah, I thought it was wild. That's 2 of those.
Alone. And I know that
of Energy,
with
really
100% certainty, which as an intel officer,
I mean, it's like all those launches, like all those NASA launches, there's always shit,
Yeah, this one. So this one, you can just meet the video. So you see, I watch a lot of TikToks, but you'll see the top one. I just put stuff underneath. But the top one, that's the bluegill triple prime, and you can see. I believe the nuclear weapon's the one up top, and then it goes off, and you can see that thing underneath. It's UFO, and it starts falling to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one before. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I think Think Tank tweeted that out too. He got a bunch of eyes on that.
And it's from the National Archives, so it's like,
Yeah, National Archives. That's archives.gov. So that's from our government. And it says on there, I'm pretty sure it says a UFO. I forget what the exact title is. I'd have to look, but it's still up there on the archives.
Okay, so that's what I mean. It's like, you try to keep it all straight in your head. It's like, okay, So none of these drone theories really work because it's the same fucking shit we've been seeing since then, right? Like, and it's like
Yep.
they're
Oh,
the
the Foo
same
Fighters.
shapes and stuff, right? Yeah. And the orb things, like I was always dubious about those, but then after reading about the plasma stuff, that makes perfect sense to me now. That those could, those are real. It's a fucking like if there's a coherent because these plasma bubble things that I was talking about greener, they're stable. Once you get the bubble formed, it's stable, right? So it's like a yin yang, right? The yin yang. That's the other thing about his stuff too. All these ancient symbols and all, makes it's all tied into that, right? Like you see, like even like the swastika, right? Like all of this stuff is symbols of this energy production, right? Like you can see the sort of fingerprints of this stuff, and you can kind of see it kind of peter out, right? Like, from I don't know if it was like pre-flood or whatever, but at some point in the ancient past, we understood this, and then slowly forgot it, and then less and less people would know it, and then in the modern, sort of like more, like, the AD part, it's like alchemy, and then it's just been sort of they've been able to put it in the same box as UFOs where they can ridicule it and demonize it and are able to effectively shut down anybody understanding it because of that, right? Like I talk about that a lot. Like, do you ever see those red panda koala videos?
Yeah, I do sometimes.
That he's got 3 videos that I feel like are if debunkers would just watch those videos, I feel like it would really change their worldview. There's one that's like how the CIA, cucked the media, and then another one about how they did it to academia, and another one how about they did just, sort of in general, it got the institutions of our system to, malign UFOs and treat it like it's a sideshow. And I mean, I think
Oh yeah.
yeah. I feel like these people now who still want to fight about whether or not it exists or whatever is really frustrating because it's just like there's so much shit, like it just not even getting into the weird aspect of it.
Yeah, and I always that's why I kind of got involved with this. I told you a little bit earlier because I kind of just excuse me. I had just personal stuff going on. Was trying to detach from a lot of politics. Just watch a couple other channels, and then I'm not reading like any news articles really until recently. But as I was saying, yeah, I started researching all this stuff, classified, not classified, but declassified stuff, public people, people speaking about their encounters, finding about all this stuff. I have my own, personal experiences too. So I went from researcher. Well, I went basically from, I thought the subject was cool, so it wasn't a hobby. Just like, back in the day, I watched a lot of sports. So I was like, I like sports, but it wasn't like, something I did a whole lot. But I knew about Stanton Friedman. I knew about George Knapp.
Yeah.
And then Lou Elizondo came out. And then the Pentagon was like, yeah, UFOs are real. And they started calling them UAP. I saw UAP as like a rebranding.
Yeah.
And that's and I think that's a good thing. I still use both words, and I'll still use flying saucer, but I mainly use UAP, and I'll explain why. Because there's a reason people don't go around and say bonies, or Henrys anymore. Because now that's called I don't know what the fuck the store's called anymore, but something fresh. But stores get bought out, their names change, and then if it's a bad name, then the name will change sometimes. And so I see it as a rebranding. Because UFOs has such a bad stigma, you were saying earlier, such a bad stigma that now it's called UAP, NHI. Now we have people saying that it's real, and now it's military people and ex-military saying it's real. So I predominantly use UAP because I'm jumping on the rebrand wave to be like, yo, you guys who are stuck in the past using UFO, y'all are literally stuck in the past, using old terms, outdated stuff. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I mean, yeah, I try to remember.
I tweet a lot, dude.
I know. I try to remember to look at your stuff sometimes. Where do you get all these from? Is this from the archives or?
No, I'll just tell you because I do all my stuff open source. I don't charge anybody anything. I'm like Linux, dude. I'm just trying to do some open source and help everybody out. But I find out most of this stuff is just from other social media, and I just use key search terms or other stuff that I'm following and find them.
Nice. This one's crazy, dude. This is from
Yeah,
Jersey.
and so that one, the reason we posted that one's weird because that one's most likely a drone, or it's most likely a
There's those kites, right?
airplane. Yeah, but the thing that's weird is the light configuration. They're
That's
using
weird.
ambiguous and unconventional light configuration, so the lights are all fucking over the place.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, what is going on? It's really weird.
Well, it's
and
like
then there's another video underneath, real quick, underneath that video, where one of these so-called drones or jets, it turns on a dime. It does a 90-degree turn.
oh, yeah, I saw that one. I saw John Greenwald trying to debunk it too.
Yeah, I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, I film stuff like that. If you're filming something and it's going in a straight line or turning, it's not gonna make a 90-degree turn. It's gonna look like it slows down because you're following it, and then as you go to where it's going away from you, it's not gonna do a 90-degree turn.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's like in Phoenix Lights, I think, is the most famous example of this, where they send out the flares a few hours after the event happens so that they can have some sort of excuse, right? It would make perfect sense that they were sending up their own sort of, drones and like other artifacts so they can say, oh, look, see, it was all fucking hoax. Look what we did. This is, we got the hoaxsters right here, the Doug and Dave or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make perfect sense. Like if they were sending up exotic drones while this other flap is ongoing. I mean, what's the New Jersey connection?
Go ahead. I think New Jersey. I think just because I think they have nuclear weapons stored there, but I think they just have military bases. So it could just be a coincidence that there's military bases. But I was gonna say the reason why I mentioned this earlier, why I think that there's multiple answers or multiple hypotheses going on, because have you heard of? Let me pull up my notes. We talked about earlier the different groups. There's a group called the Collins Elite. Have you heard of the Collins Elite at all?
Yeah, the Collins Elite, yeah.
Yeah,
the religious ones.
They're the religious ones. They think it's demons and whatnot. Well, the last time I checked, I don't think, and I personally I do believe demons are real, but I don't think this is what demons are, because last time I checked, demons aren't taking people like Whitley Strieber and John Lear and implanting them with a chip, or putting them with an alien implant. I don't know if you knew this, but Whitley Strieber has an implant in his head. I think it's toward near one of his ears, and then John Lear also, John Lear, his famous dad. John Lear is one in his arm. He has an alien implant. Most people don't know that. So pretty sure demons, quote unquote demons, aren't catching people and putting implants in them. That sounds fucking wild.
I mean, I thought
demons existing is one thing, but that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
that's why. I think
the jinn I thought was interesting. If that was a good theory, because the references to the jinn is like, we're gonna go fuck with the humans and try to confuse them. Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's not as confusing. I just feel like we have this layer of fucking professional bullshitters who are making it confusing, right? Like, I don't think the mystery is man-made. The mystery is not actually the phenomenon. The mystery is the people trying to fucking throw shit on it, It's like, even this, it's like, okay, say that's a plane. Doesn't that look kind of funny? Like, it's flying really fucking weird there. Because it's like, I do think that there's, like, some of these that look like planes. The fucking mimicry thing, I think, is definitely an aspect of this.
Yeah, and I tweeted this out earlier. Let me scroll up. Here it is. I won't read the whole thing because it's big. It's really long. But sure, and your whole chat knows Dr. Eric Davis. Dr. Eric Davis wrote a paper in here about different examples of mimicry techniques from UFOs. And I'll read the last part. He says, this is a combination with the mimicry of man-made aircraft and helicopters' aggregate features. So what that basically means is he's talked about other cases. I think you talked about the Cash Landrum case. I'm not familiar with that one, but
that's the one in Texas where the lady got the burns.
Yeah, he's basically saying that these UFOs can look like man-made aircraft and helicopters. And so it's all and so I think that's weird. There's another case too. You ever hear about like the one that the UFO that looked like, I don't remember the case name, but the one that looked like a helicopter, but it's like an upside down ram's horn.
Oh
Like
yeah,
an
I saw you
egg.
tweet that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one too, where these are military aircraft pilots in, I think it was a helicopter or a jet. I don't remember the whole story, but they said it themselves. Like, this thing looks like a helicopter. As they get closer, they're like, dude, it's a fucking egg with a little fuselage in the bottom with upside down ram horns.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is? Yeah, and so I tweeted out that picture. Someone made a picture of what the person described it looking like. So that is mimicry techniques from UFOs, which is fucking weird.
I know, that's really bizarre.
I've had my what I was talking about earlier. I've had my own personal sightings, so that's why I kind of got involved with this. I had my own personal sighting. A year later, and these didn't have a coincidence at all, but this is just my personal life. But I had my own personal sighting, which I'll get into, but a little bit. But I had my own personal sighting in 2012, and then the next year, I had a near-death experience, and I went back to school. I got my life together. You know, I used to, I don't know if you've seen me talk about it, but I used to be homeless, dude. I used to be addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome that you're sober now.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. I'm not fucking,
it's a journey, dude.
about to die. I was like on death's door every day. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, God, it's just like, it's childhood end where the NHI look like demons. I mean, we don't actually know what they look like, right? Like, I don't know. It seems like the Greys appears to be some sort of like robot thing. No, what do you think?
Yeah. So the Greys, I like going by the scientific data we have on some. I think it was Bob. You ever heard of Bob Oshler?
Oshler. Yeah.
Oshler, yeah. What he said, let me pull this up. He, and this is what I believe too. He said that they're,
this thing right here.
He called them silica beings.
Okay.
I just want to read the quote because this is basically how I saw it too. Yeah. So Bob Oshler he was a former NASA mission specialist. He said that the Greys are silica-based organisms as opposed to carbon-based. So we're all carbon-based. As far as I'm aware, we're all carbon-based. But he said they're silica-based organisms as opposed to carbon. And he said that they're not the true intelligence, but synthetic biological androids.
That's what I thought.
To obtain the subjects of their study. Yeah, so he calls them basically silica biological androids, which means biological robots. Like, we already do that on Mars, but we're not doing biological androids. We're using, just robots. We have robots right now on Mars and Cassini and all the probes. We do the same thing. We just don't use biological androids yet.
And it's not like we wouldn't. We totally would. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like a lot of this stuff, you see them and it's like, it's things that we would do, like even just like the exploration. Like if I was running the show and we had a post-scarcity sustainable lifestyle for everybody on the planet, the kind of things that I would be doing would be sending drones to the nearby Earth-like planets. And then I'd be doing a follow-up mission with like a, more sophisticated robots involved. And I would, just keep sending successive waves of new exploration equipment here, right? So I'm thinking that we don't actually know what the prime NHI is, right? Like it could be anything. It could be an AI, it could be a fucking octopus thing. I mean, it would kind of make sense if it was some sort of like octopus-like being, because the flashing lights, like the way that they seem to be trying to communicate with us via their sort of light patterns some points, right? I don't know. That made sense to me. I don't really think the fucking reptilian type theories, I feel like those are kind of dubious. I mean, maybe. But it's like, I could never explain why they had the convergent evolution thing, right? Like, some people, like I've heard Bob Grenier say, he thinks that like intelligent life evolves shaped like us, like it's some sort of like aspect of our physical reality where this is how intelligent life forms or whatever, which kind of made sense. But if that's not real, like then there's not really any good explanation for why they're humanoid, right? Or frequently like look like humans, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the name? I think it's David Wilcock and
Yeah, those guys are
what was the other
fucking
guy's name?
fraudsters, though, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, those guys. Yeah. So yeah, I'll tell you why I bring them up. Those guys and other guy's name. Um, I'm like a little stoned right now as far as I was going with this. But basically, I think whatever it was you were just talking about, I think it was the reptilians. I think that the reptilians, and I think stuff that Wilcock talked about. I think those are a poison in the well.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is basically they're
Yeah.
just trying to cash in on it and make money. So I think the whole reptilian thing, I think it could be possible, but the major stuff coming out from reptilians and blue avians has been scammers and grifters.
Yeah.
And the main thing for reptilians is what's his name?
David Icke.
David Icke. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
David Icke literally said a bunch of. You know all about him. He said a bunch of people don't know about him. He said a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff.
Yeah.
And he literally said that, and he believes that he's the next coming of Jesus Christ.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. So, I haven't seen any data to back this stuff up. We've all seen a lot of stuff about grays and these weird other things.
Exactly.
We've never seen any reptilian. So I think it's a poison in the well. So. Just be weird about that. That's my personal belief.
Yeah, no. And then like I think the sort of like ant like mantoids or like ant people or whatever the fuck, I think that is a little harder to discredit because there's like indigenous people that have stories of that, like people that live fucking underground or some sort of humanoid ant.
Yeah, I have two stories about that. The Cherokee tribe calls them Anu. Anu
Okay.
means ant, and Naki means friend. So Anu,
Whoa.
Naki means ant friend in Cherokee. So yeah, isn't that
Anunnaki. Wow.
yeah. I found that out just through my personal research.
That's crazy. Like we talk about that a lot too. These words that appear all over the world, like mana, is like different cultures on the other sides of the world have similar ideas that are with the same word applied to it. Like on Rapa Nui, they had a mana, right? They said that the whatchamacallits, those big statues, it was like some sort of fucking like mana production via them. And then of course we have the Bible story, and then there's a couple other cultures that use that word. I can't remember off the top of my head, but just the fact that fucking Easter Island and Egypt have a similar concept with the same name, that's really weird. And then like I don't know, Billy Carson always talks about Teotihuacan is named after Thoth. It's like Thoth City or whatever is the translation, which would fit with a lot of the legend, or the I don't know. It's always weird. I always say this. Chats, they know me. I say it every night, but like humans lived in fucking hunter-gatherers and like these sort of like like day by day struggle, and then they finally moved into cities and started living together, and the very first thing they did was write the most epic space opera of all time. Like, no, they had to come up with language first, and then once they figured out like a symbolic representation of fucking verbal concepts, the very first thing they did was fucking chisel it into fucking tablets, like the most hardcore thing ever. It was like the fucking first thing that they did in the city, which is really interesting, yeah. Baba Vanga? Who's Baba Vanga? Yeah, fucking poor
I
Assad.
haven't heard that one. But I have other ones too. So down in Brazil,
Yeah.
they what they
This pyramid
call
shit's crazy. Where'd you
what
find
they
this one?
call. Oh, so those. Oh, so don't put your sound on because it's gonna probably blast your ears.
Yeah.
I said that video is what it feels like to have ADHD because it's like you can't focus. So those triangles, or that it's basically a pyramid. But it's like a tetrahedron or a pyramid that's over the Pentagon, and those are I think 3 different angles of over the Pentagon. I don't remember the exact date. I'll have to look.
Wow. Oh yeah, I think that I remember that one. Yeah, wasn't there one in Moscow the same night too?
Yeah,
And I
I
say
just
this all
threw
the
this out the
time
other day
too.
so I can find it.
The shit like the 1952 flap in DC. I always talk about that, but that researcher from Sol Foundation, that Beatriz Villalobos or Villa something,
Hmm.
she was going through the records and found, photographic plates from that night in orbit. There's these anomalous light sources. And I feel like stuff like that is really compelling, and I don't feel like people don't give that enough credit. That's one of the more compelling pieces of information that's come out in recent years.
Yeah, this pyramid one is from 2017. There's three different angles of it, and it's right over the Pentagon. And there's been one of the guys actually came forward and talked about it and spoke about it. And speaking about pyramids, dude, I saw one in 2012. That's kind of what even got me into this. I'd seen UFO stuff, and like I heard about George Knapp. I knew about um, Bob Lazar back in the day. I knew about some of the guys, but I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm just going about my life. And I saw one in 2012 with four other friends, and it was pretty much just as big as that one in the Pentagon. It was like the size of two football fields.
Wow.
So I've racked my brain now for 12 going on 13 years, 12 going on 13 years of what it could be. It ain't human unless it's a reverse engineered, TR3B we've heard about now.
Mm-hmm.
That thing wasn't anything we know about. What fucking wasn't a drone? Wasn't a balloon. Because in my experience, I won't go out through the whole thing because we can do it another time.
Mm.
But I was with my buddies. We're in San Diego and we're watching this thing for hours. And we're all just like, dude, what the hell is that? And a couple of my buddies kind of got nervous. They went inside.
Mm-hmm.
But after like 2 or 3 hours, the thing just went whoop, and just like Gordon Cooper says it, zip, and it just zipped away like a fucking someone shot a bullet out of a gun, but it's faster than that. It was Mach speeds, just boom. It was gone out of our sky. I was not alone. I had four other friends, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And then I'm just like racking my brain about it. And then 5 years later, 2017, Lou Lozano comes out, and I'm just like, my ears perk up and my arms perk up. My hair stands up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Pentagon says UFO is real. I was like, well, I fucking saw one. And then 2020 hits. Then I told you about, I stopped going into news, went more into UFOs, and I was just like kind of filled a gap, and I just started using some of my skills on like researching and stuff, and here I am.
Wow. I mean, I never really had a sighting like that. I mean, or if I did, I don't remember. My fucking, my memory's a little hazy these days.
Yeah.
But like, that, I don't know what got me into it. I mean, I've always kind of been interested. Trying to think. Nothing specific, just like, I guess when we started doing the stream, we were looking for fun stuff to get into, and I guess that was 2020. And we just started fucking peeling back and, digging into it. And yeah, like I said, the more I look, the more I'm convinced. I don't need, it's definitely something. Like, I think, we just kind of go back and forth about what it actually is. What's this one? The proof of mimicry? Yeah, this stuff is really weird. I mean, do you think that like it's appearing to you because you have the gene, or you were with friends? You said, huh?
Yeah, no, I think I don't think it was showing itself to me I just think we were lucky. It was like right time, right place. But where I was at too in San Diego, I'm close to Camp Pendleton, which is the biggest. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's the biggest military base on the West Coast. It's fucking huge. It's like I think it's like 50 miles long or 70 miles long. It's basically its own like miniature city.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting requests for the Assad song. Hold on.
Oh yeah, dude. I looked up a little bit about that. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll learn more about it
Syria is
tomorrow.
crazy.
I know that stuff's all coming.
It's like he's probably not that great, like there's a lot of like stories about how Assad who's so brutal, and like he's, I'm sure he's whatever, but it's like what happens is the CIA starts funding these like outside groups to start shit in the country and cause trouble, and then they crack down on them. They do things to sort of stymie those groups, and then then the next wave of narrative is all about how they're brutal authoritarians and blah blah blah. Right. And I think that they probably are like were, not the best, right? Say like 10 years ago before the, the rampage started. But then the more aggression you have from the West, the more they have to take drastic measures to keep it limit it. So then all these stories start about how Assad's this and Assad's that, and then that gas attack shit I think is false flag. I don't think they did that. Um, because the people who were the rebels in Syria is fucking Al Qaeda and fucking ISIS. It's like an ISIS affiliate. Um, like there's the WikiLeaks from Jake Sullivan where he says, "quote Al Qaeda is on our side in Syria." So like they suck. It's just that it's not like they have any concern for how brutal Assad is because they back fucking the most brutal regimes in the world or Western allies. It's that they have you know anybody who does not completely fucking like bend the knee is going to be uh, you know ferreted out of power, right? Yeah, timber sycamore, exactly. Yeah. Um, what does Gandalf think about plasmoids? Um, I don't
Dude,
know.
I just heard a research paper recently that there could be plasma like living
Yeah,
beings. So I
yeah,
don't even know, dude.
yeah. That I heard a guy. There was a guy on a podcast, some old British scientist, um,
Mm.
and it was the guy from Cosmic Summit. What's his name? His podcast, George something, George Howard maybe. Um, But they had this guy on and they were just chit chatting in the beginning of the episode. And he was like, "Oh, I went to Cornell, but that was back in the days before there was anti Semitism on campus or something." Right? Like, as soon as he said that, I was like, "Man, fuck you." And I turned it off. Like, I don't even care how incredible his research is. If he's fucking talking shit like that, man, fucking suck my dick, man. No way. Like, to
Yeah, that's
pretend that like
insane.
the anti-Semitism on campus is somehow worse now than it was in the fucking 50s and 60s is ludicrous. Um, so right off the bat, I'm like, okay, your ability to discern reality is skewed, so I don't know how trustworthy you are. Um, but I mean, that's an interesting theory anyway. Like, if I don't know how they would be living conscious beings, but I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, um, this fucking Bob Grenier stuff. I feel like you would really get into it. Trying to think if there's like a summary I can play. Um, because his shit it really fucking blew my world.
Yeah, I
So
wrote his
yeah,
name down. I'm not super familiar with him, so I'll have to check him out another day, another time.
like the here I'll give you the episode. He was on that podcast and he runs this. This is his YouTube channel. This Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Martin Fleischmann was the Pons and Fleischmann. Um, he was trying to like fic whatever clear the guy's name because he's dead now, but like this was started as a way to sort of like discredit because it was like an intelligence operation to discredit Hans and Fleischmann, right? Because the work was replicated all over the place, but then this MIT replication that's supposedly the source of how it was discredited was completely suspicious. So Bob's story is like he saw that go down and he got into cold fusion at that time and he's just been following it ever since. And there's definitely something real there. Like I said, I like it because it explains so many other mysteries, right? Like when you have a theory like that can explain a wide range of disparate mysteries, I can really get into that, right?
Yeah. Have you read Secret Machines at all? The Tom
I
DeLonge stuff?
Yeah, I listen to audiobooks like,
Okay.
I'm doing
Yeah.
shit, but yeah, I listen
Okay.
to them.
Still same thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've read the books. I do both. I do audiobooks and I do
Mm-hmm.
reading. In the Secret Machines, yeah, dude, I love those books because even though they're nonfiction, they
Mm-hmm.
still explain a lot of this stuff they can just give you ideas like the breakaway civilization you talked about. That's
This
sorry,
one.
spoiler alert, but he kind of
Oh,
talks about it. Tom and P. Levena talk about it in his book, so
yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's like that stuff seems to be pretty close to reality, like that whole universe that they make in those books. And listening to Peter Lavenda go through the rundown of like his understanding of the phenomenon, it seems like he's got a pretty good eye for, you know, what's credible and what's not. And I think that's pretty, you know.
Yeah, he's responding to me before on Twitter. I put up a post of one of those blue-faced. It's one of the blue-looking. Have you seen some of the beings from the Nazca Peru cave?
Yeah,
How
what
there's
do
a
you
bunch
think
of
about
different fake
those,
ones.
man? Oh,
There's a blue. I'll tell you the story real quick. I put a picture up, and I did a quote from the book. I said, "Beware from the pale blue-faced man."
mm,
And I put that in there, and he replied to it because I thought it was weird that like there's some creatures down there that
yeah.
sounds and look like, you know, how you depict in this book.
Okay.
What were you going to say about the Nazca caves?
What do you think about those mummies? What do you think that is?
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. Well, I'll tell you what I believe first, and I'll tell you the story. They're interesting. I at first I gave my distance because Jaime, you know, Musan's been involved with them a lot,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and he, you know, he has a big laundry list of like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, suspect things. I won't go into detail, but stuff
Yeah.
like Stephen Greer, where you have to take it with a grain of salt because you don't know what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
I looked into them. There has been some studies done on a bunch of the different bodies. I forget how many they're up to now, but they're in
Mm-hmm.
a couple dozen. And some of the bodies have been looked at. The DNA's been looked at. But what I find, like three big things that stand out to me, is uh, some of them have food in their intestines,
Yeah.
in their stomachs and shit.
Yeah.
And some of them have fucking berries that are in like in Spain and shit that aren't even from here. So I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
That's
Who the
crazy.
hell took a berry from 2,000 years ago and shoved it in this thing's, you know, if it was fake, like why? Like, I'm just thinking like, that's weird. That's weird. They're finding food in there from other places that didn't exist. Uh,
The osmium.
the Yeah, the osmium implants. So
It's
that's one of them
fucking
too.
crazy, right?
Yeah, the implants. Osmium is toxic to humans, so we pick it up
Mm-hmm.
without gloves on. It's toxic. It's like mercury. It can be toxic. I don't know if toxic is the right word, but you know what I mean. It can be
Yeah.
harmful to humans.
And it's like
Um,
expensive and hard to find too, right? It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. And then another thing too is some of them have eggs that have found to have DNA inside of them, so that legitimately they have eggs in there.
yeah,
So
it's
some of them were.
fucking weird, man.
That's fucking weird. Yeah, weird. Why?
What
If it
are
was a
these
fake, why?
things though? Like, so do you
And
think
then
there's like an alien mad scientist?
I don't know. I think that some of them could actually be NHI, and we've heard
Mm-hmm.
stories. This is where I got to get my own personal belief from it because we don't know where they're from. They're from a cave. Well,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I do know where they're from. That was what I was going to tell you.
Ooh.
I found using my sleuthing skills. I found the exact location of the cave in Nazca, Peru. I
Oh shit.
added the Ministry of Health, whatever it's called in
Those
Peru, and I was
fucking
like,
debunkers.
yeah, I was like, hey, you fucking debunkers. I was like, and I said this in Spanish too. I can speak a
Nice.
little bit of Spanish. I was like, hey, you fucking debunkers. I was like, you got
Mm.
24 hours to give me all of your secrets or I'm going to share the location. I was like, this
Oh.
isn't a threat. I was like, I'm just giving you 24 hours. I then tweeted the location. I had Pavel. Do you know who Pavel? I can't remember his last name. Pavel B. He has a YouTube channel. Him and a couple other people were like, yo, dude, they're like, Gandalf, like, fucking take that thing down, please take it down. And I got a couple other DMs from people who said that it is the exact location, and so I
Mm-hmm.
took down the post. But I have the location. I took it down because the locals don't want it being shared. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pro indigenous rights. I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna listen to you guys. I deleted it, but yeah, going back to what I was saying with that story, I know exactly where it is. So this place does exist. It's a cave down in Nazca. Really
Mm-hmm.
weird. Um, yeah, I don't know what to think. We're gonna find
I
out
mean,
more
that's where the
information.
Paracas
There's
skulls are
too
from
many.
too, right?
Yeah, but
So that's
oh, a couple
weird.
other points real quick. The Have you seen some of the fingerprints on some of these? Some of them
Mm-hmm.
they don't have um what's it called? You know, if you look at our fingerprints, we all have oval shaped fingerprints.
Yeah.
Theirs were they were not ellipses. They had perpendicular to
Yeah.
straight lines.
Yeah, that
So
was
just
weird.
weird,
Yeah.
weird. So I don't know what to think. I think they were definitely real. I don't know if it was a mad scientist or NHI or what, but at the moment, it looks like at the moment it's a new discovery and a new species. So I think it's cool. But I don't know. I don't personally think that those are what's flying around today, and that's that. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
still think they're real. I still think that they could be NHI, but I don't think that those things explain what we're all seeing today. It could, but I don't think so, because they're all
You know,
old. You know, they're all like thousands of years old.
yeah, and it's like somebody was doing surgery on them, right? Like the
Yeah,
implants and shit, and it's just like the biology of them doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It looks like, I mean, it looks like if you were fucking came across this planet and you wanted to sort of interact with us or somehow, have an ambassador on Earth, like them trying to like splice genes and shit and figure out like the optimum form. Because it's like a lot of them are like weird biomechanically, like they would have had a hard time walking and maybe like they were built for space or something. It's just like
yeah,
none of it makes sense. Like it's why I was thinking Alien Mad Scientist makes a lot of sense. Like it's somebody trying to fucking figure out how best to infiltrate humans, but like, you know, cognizant of the cargo cult aspect of it. So like, you know, if you make the right type, if you find the right sort of fucking midpoint between like the uncanny valley and like the sublime or whatever, people are going to fucking worship you effectively, right? And it seems
yeah,
really interesting that between that and then the Paracas skulls, which by the way they had weird DNA too, right? Like they had like Eastern European DNA or something. I remember like from near the Black Sea. And
yeah. That is
then
strange.
the fucking Nazca lines, it's all there. Like there was a presence there, and then a cargo cult sprung up in response to it. Like say they made say they find that like they made those pointy skulled people we see in history, various places, and they were trying to figure out how you could make it so they were, they could interbreed with humans, right? You had to make it like you wanted to aspects of yourself that you wanted to represent in the being mixed with the human's adaptation to the planet, you would get something, you know, that could breed with humans, but still sort of, harness whatever qualities you were trying to give it. Kind of what it looks like to me. Yeah, like the Ajiji. I mean, the Ajiji were giants, though, I think, right? Um, I mean, a lot of the stuff from the Anunnaki stories really kind of rings true as well. Um, like supposedly the story goes that they fucked with our DNA, right? They like mixed the Gigi, which was the slaves they brought with them, with the primates on the planet until they found the right mix and got to us. Like that's what the story in the tablet says, right? Um,
Yeah, that definitely could be a possibility too. I'm pretty sure I've read that story before.
yeah, I mean that's like the kernel, like that's what all the religious texts are based off of, like or the Abrahamic ones and the sort of the ones that come from the Middle East, like those are like you can trace like how far away they're getting from that origin story because that's like I said, Gilgamesh, like all that shit, that's like the first story humans ever wrote, and it's this epic space opera that explains our entire existence. Um, and then you can see it's just copied and recopied over and over again, up till you get to the New Testament, and that's you know it makes perfect sense why that story could have originally existed and this sort of like practical guide to, reincarnation and karma and all. Because telling you, after getting into Bob Grenier stuff, I think all that's real. I think it's a fucking real phenomenon. Like, that's, I won't bother explaining it why, but like, um, I forgot where I was going with that. Fuck. Um, yeah. Oh yeah, so like originally there was like a practical guide to, how to fucking reach enlightenment in the sense that like communing with the Akashic records and, reincarnating and all that. And it just slowly became, went further and further from that until it was incoherent, and was just sort of like, for power to maintain dominance, like it kind of goes from being sort of a actual historical description mixed with practical guide for living and becomes eventually just, a way to like fucking do pedo shit without getting in trouble for it. Basically, right? Like
Yeah.
um
Have you ever read the Book of Enoch at all, or the Watchers from the Ethiopian Bible? because it explains like all this stuff. And this
Yeah.
the Ethiopian Bible is allegedly from 34 AD, so it's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
the oldest Bible in the world. Christian Bible, not the oldest Bible,
Yeah.
oldest Christian Bible.
No, yeah, that I totally impelled on that. I believe that, for sure.
Yeah, because I grew up a evangelical Christian, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I went away from religion. I'm kind of anti-religious, but
Yeah.
I'm cool with everyone. I'm cool with other people having their own
No.
freedom of choice. I'm now very spiritual. I consider myself Ethiopian Christian. I
Nice.
read the Ethiopian Bible. I read my other Bible.
What's up,
It
sweetheart?
explains all this stuff. So I'm like, dude, it explains all this stuff. The only reason the Ethiopian Bible is banned in America is because one of the popes, back when they thought that the Earth was the center of the universe and the
Mm-hmm.
Earth was flat, said, "No, we're going to ban these because black guy." That's literally why they're not here, because of racism
Yeah.
and the Catholic Church wanting to remove them. So, I don't know. Yeah, you said you read them. People in the chat haven't. You should read them because the Book of Enoch and the Watchers explains all this stuff.
Yeah,
It's pretty
right.
pretty interesting.
And it explains it in a way where it's like takes it out of these sort of like, vague, like ethereal sort of it was a palace in heaven, and I think it makes it more concrete where it's like no, it's a spaceship, right? Um with the OT god
Yeah,
mentioning other gods as if they were real. What's OT? But I mean, the Anunnaki were real, right? Or whatever, effectively. I mean, they're real in the Christian Bible. There's a
yeah,
reference
and
to them, you know.
in Isaiah, I'm not getting Christian. I'm just pulling up this because it relates to UFOs. But in Isaiah 34,
Mm,
it talks about Lilith. Lilith
mm,
is a demon that's always accompanied by owls. We always hear about these owl
mm-hmm.
stories. I think Lou
Yeah.
Alzano's talked about it, but in the in the Quran, the Torah, and the Bible, pretty much,
Oh,
uh, every Bible that religions talk about, they talk about Lilith, the demon that has owls that's following it. So really
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, like the Anunnaki is a group of fucking, supreme, like not supreme beings, but like powerful beings, right? So like advanced
Like demigods,
aliens.
kind of, right?
Yeah. And there's a bunch of them, and I think eventually most of them leave in the story, but there's a brother and sister who stay, and it seems like that's what the modern Yahweh is based off of, like you know, this one of many of these, demigod types eventually assumes the mantle of supreme, monotheistic God. Um and they go from there. I mean, I feel like the modern way is like there's some sort of scam going on with it where they're able to like like usurp the sort of like the devotion to the religious deities is somehow like um hijacked, kind of, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I'm gonna fucking go down some rabbit holes here, but maybe we'll talk about that next time. Like it's like, yeah, the stuff about the Vedas and all is crazy too, because it's like, I don't know. We were talking about this last night, like Mohenjo-Daro, right? Like that site in Pakistan, I think, where it's fucking glassed. There's like a site that looks like it got fucking hit with like a nuke because it's turned to glass, and there's like human bodies that
Oh
are
yeah, yeah.
fucking like encased in glass on the surface, like that had been sitting there for thousands of years. I don't know how you explain that, but it does fit in with the Vedas, the story that there was like a fucking, giant battle around the time of the Younger Dryas, and maybe what we think is the Younger Dryas is the effects of this battle, you know?
Yeah, it
Which,
could be. And I think that's the same with I don't know if it's Russia or because I'm just going off my top of my head. What's it called? Siberia. I think there's a spot in Siberia, some forest, where it looks like it got hit by a nuke like hundreds
Tunguska?
of years ago or something. Yeah, that Tunguska event. So that kind of too. They don't know like what that really was, if it was a comet or what.
There's that megalithic site up there too, which I think is really incredible because it's a whole bigger like there's a couple sites that are just like a bigger scale, like the Longyao Caves in China, and there's a quarry right near there. I forget what it's called. Um,
Oh yeah, those super deep caves that
Yeah,
have like forests underneath them or
yeah,
something.
there's all these man-made caves that are dug into these mountains, and then when they were done using them, they flooded them, right? So there's like they know they're there, they've done lidar or whatever, and they've drained a couple of them, but they're just fucking thousands of gallons of water in there that, uh, you know, for some reason when they were done using them, they covered it up for whatever reason. But like, and then you see these structures all over the world too, like like in Turkey and elsewhere, like does look like at some point there were people building sort of like bomb shelter type deals, which doesn't make sense for a natural problem. Like if it was like people have said, a comet or a sunspot or
Hmm.
CME, right? That comes
And there's those ones
suddenly.
in Turkey too.
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
forget what they're
saying.
called. Yeah,
Um,
remember the ones in
um,
Turkey? I forget what they're called, but
uh,
they have like I feel like 20,000 people or something. I forget the
yeah,
number, but
Darren
those ones are
Koyu.
huge.
Well, Darren Koyu is one. There's a whole series of them, right? We thought it was just Darren Koyu, but then there's other ones, and there's these long fucking tunnels, like kilometers long tunnels throughout Turkey connecting these underground bunkers, which again is incredibly fucking bizarre. It's really hard to think of an explanation for why ancient peoples would have something like that, um, unless some of this other currents are going on, right? Because it's like what is going to give you the sort of heads up to a calamity where you're going to have enough time to build something like that? First of all, because why would you build something like that, right? Like that's got to be years worth of work on that of these ancient peoples who like didn't really have time to spare like that, right? Like, that's quite the project. That's like Longyao Caves in China. That's on par with the pyramids. Building these fucking these tunnel or whatever the hell they are, underground, you know, like bomb shelters or whatever. Like building this kind of shit is a fucking it's like a decadal project or like a life's work. And they have them not only they have that, but they
Mhm.
have them connect it to other similar sites by via these long tunnels, which I don't know how we even fucking build a tunnel like that today, let alone thousands of years ago. And supposedly the story is that they were like Christian peoples from the Middle Ages who built them to hide from fucking barbarians or something. Which, I mean, that doesn't really jive because it's the rocks on the inside too. That's the other thing. Some of the rocks
Yeah,
inside Darren Koyu, there's these megalithic rocks in there, and they seem to be reliant on humans able to move them, right? Because it's like that's how you shut the door. You move these massive, like 10-ton stones or whatever, with not really any kind of,
She's nutty in
not really any
relations to my
indication
base
how they do
station.
it.
I had it sealed.
I
That's
mean,
the
hmm.
deal. Secrets were revealed
Have you ever
after I
heard of
knew each
the
other from
ancient
before.
Aztec story about where the ancient Aztec culture and where those people came from at all? Their story is that they came from. It's called Chico. I'm never gonna
DB, what
butcher it,
up,
but
dog?
Chico Mostok,
Mm.
and that word Chico Mostok derives from um, their language. Nahuatl Chico means seven. Oz told cave and sea is place. So basically, what that means is the Aztec people, their culture and their story is that they came from a place called the Seven Cave Place, and there's a location up in Utah that is a seven cave system that looks like it could be the place. I'm not saying it is, but it looks like it could be the place. But just very
Wow.
weird that all these cultures talk about they came from
Yeah.
caves, and that's the same with the Cherokee people.
Mm.
They talk about I forget the whole story, but when I talked about earlier the Anu, Naki, the ant friend,
Yeah,
they
the
talk
ant
about
friends.
being yeah, they talk about being saved by the ant friends, going into caves and being saved and then coming back out. And
Wow.
then the ant friends taught them how to like farm for corn and all this stuff. So very weird. We keep hearing all these stories,
I
similar
mean,
stories, you know.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know. It's makes I don't know. It's like 9/11 where you see all these like coincidences, and it's like at a certain point it's like okay, this is too many coincidences. It's like this stuff, and the way it's like these similar like currents are present all over the world. Like the Australian Aborigines and the fucking Egyptians, and like you just said, the Aztecs and the Cherokees. They all have these very similar origin stories that align with the Sumerian fucking, the classic Anunnaki stories. I don't, I don't know. Like, I guess there's ways where you could have spread stories like that in the ancient world, but they would have entailed like you know a diffusion, like sort of like the Graham Hancock theory, right? That there was somebody advanced
Mhm.
and they spread it all over, and it's like that could be true, right? It's like we don't know. Seems like there was at this point there was a group of fucking people who had a level of technology that was beyond where hunter gatherers were, right? Like they sort of knew how to do certain things that are like you know we don't see again until very recently. It's like some of the stuff. It's like Bob Grenier's research. I keep citing him, but like his stuff, the connections that he made to the ancient world were not even apparent in modern science until very recently. Like you weren't able to see the traces of this technology until very recently. Like that's how, advanced it was. And it's sort of like it's like nuclear physics. It's like you know how when we were doing nuclear, like we were digging into the atom, we just kept going smaller and smaller. We just kept trying to
Yeah.
get like what's the smallest part. And that's basically where they're still at, trying to get the elementary particles. Um, the way I see his work is kind of like we kind of skip past this part, like like we were in such a craze to build weapons, that we in this early atomic research, like we were so concerned about how to make it go boom, that we didn't actually sort of like, dig into it and look for natural sort of because I think that's how you usually do research is you see weird phenomenon and then you follow up on them. I think in our case,
Yep.
we were trying to make a bomb, right? So we like kept digging into the atom, and then after the war, we were trying to make bigger bombs, right? And then I think that's what led us to where we are now. And I think that there's at the layer below that, sort of like at the scale. I mean, it's not the scale. Maybe it's a couple scales, but like nuclear emulsions is what he calls it, right? Like low energy nuclear reactions. It's like the atoms themselves, right? Not their
Mhm.
particles. Like the interactions that he's finding with his work, it's basically like clean limitless technology, like cold fusion in any temperature, like and it seems like it was there all along, and it's really incredible. I think it's going to change the world if they let it. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm probably gonna hop off here in about 5 more minutes, but
Okay.
we can still keep talking about a couple more things. I'm just getting a little tired.
You give me a rundown. I feel like I'm talking too
Um,
much, man, because I
oh
just
no,
talk.
no, no, you're doing good. We're just having a chat back and forth.
Chat, you got any
Um,
questions?
and I'll definitely come back again too.
Yeah,
Um,
whenever you want, man.
because I've been joining like Twitter Spaces here and there sometimes. I don't join a whole lot. They're very niche because like a couple that I joined, they're like one of them is hosted by Darcy Weir, and it's on
Okay.
him on his radio station. So it's him and his pastor co-host, and it's like what I mean. It's moderated really well.
Mm,
So I joined a couple. I don't just go out there and join because you guys all know it's a sea of fucking Nazis, dude.
yeah.
So I'm not going out there
Yeah.
and talking to randos.
Yeah.
But
It always
um,
happens.
the one of the best books I read. I'll spoil a little bit just because it's an old book, but this book is Crypto's Conundrum by Chase Brandon. Chase Brandon used to work for the CIA. People didn't
Okay.
know. Chase Brandon, when he worked for the CIA, he was I forget the exact title, but he was like the Hollywood liaison, and
Okay.
he basically would make movies. One of the famous ones is I always forget the one of the ones from the early '90s, but the most famous one is Jason Bourne. He legit
Okay.
was like,
Oh,
"Okay,
okay.
you guys want to make movies about the CIA and stuff? Well, you got to come talk to me because
Hmm.
I'll be the front man for the CIA." Well, he wrote a book called Crypto's Conundrum. It was a science fiction book. In there, he talks about that he has to
Oh, you broke up. Oh no. Wait,
nonfiction to
you broke up.
explain.
You broke up.
But I break up. Hang on, let me turn some stuff off.
That
Am I
he
still
had to write
there?
nonfiction.
Yeah, basically, can you
Yeah, yeah,
hear me
yeah.
okay now? But okay, he basically had to write nonfiction or you know stories to explain real life. And what I
That's like
mean by
Sybil
that is,
Edmonds. Yeah, that's what Sybil
yeah,
Edmonds
yeah,
said. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and in Crypto's Conundrum, he talks about that And he says it. He says that while I chased Brandon while I worked at the CIA. I found the shit at the Roswell. They had bodies, and he explains his whole encounter in there.
Whoa.
So, I've read the book a couple times. I'm obsessed with the book and him.
Oh, what's it called?
It's called Crypto's Conundrum. I'll put it in Discord.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
in a
tight.
minute, even after I hop off. It's a Thai book, but and in that book, he explains basically Roswell happened. He explains a lot of stuff that's corroborated by Corso. I'm getting tired, so I can't think of anything. But with Corso, you know Corso, right?
Yeah.
He corroborates what Corso saw, and he corroborates pretty much that Roswell happened. And in the book,
it's on the
he
screen.
explains. Yeah, in the book, he explains. I have my TV off, so I can't see it at the moment.
No, yeah. Hold on.
It's a dope book. I would recommend reading it. But in there, he basically explains demigods. That there's demigods in there, and they're fighting over Earth. And then these demigods also can reincarnate. And I don't want to spoil too much. So basically, these demigods are fighting over Earth, and it's like good versus evil. And they come back down, and they can reincarnate as like humans, and like it's a fucking weird book, but it explains a lot of stuff, and that book has just helped me understand a lot of stuff. So this dude worked for the CIA. He was a liaison for the CIA in Hollywood for a bunch of different movies, and he wrote a book on what I just said on Roswell. Said that it did happen, and he says that it did happen like in an excerpt. So like how books still have like introduction and yada yada all that crap. Well, in there he has like an excerpt, and he literally says, "When I worked for the CIA, I found it. Yep, Roswell's real." And I'm just like, holy shit. And then he explains it also. It's an awesome book.
Yeah, it's really tough because they're so evil that you hate to trust anybody coming from the CIA. But it's like, I mean, theoretically, like that, there has to be, if we believe any of this stuff, then there are whistleblowers, there are sort of rival factions. I mean, otherwise it's like, if you're going to go that route where it's like every single thing is assumed to be disinfo, I don't think you can really get anywhere with that.
Yeah. And what you were saying earlier, all these spooks, I like to call them spooks. They all just they're all paranoid all the time. They all like to keep all their stuff for themselves. But David Grush came out and Will Lozano and all the other whistleblowers.
Yeah.
They want to have this safe stuff, out in the public where it should be out, universities or whatever, and not kept, in some filing cabinet because they might be able to make $5 trillion down the road or whatever the reasons be. And Tom DeLonge, how he explains it is that the reason there's so much security around it is that because of the Cold War, and like that kind of makes sense that they did, but it's 2024, guys. The Cold War is over, dude. Like fucking, come on, like get with it. You know what I mean? Like we're about to be back on the moon again. We're sending out all these different new space missions. Like come on, guys. Like we don't need to do this Cold War bullshit anymore, even though it's still going on. Like look at Syria.
I mean, they're worse.
Go into that, but.
I mean, they're arguably worse now than they were during the Cold War. It's like the unipolar era has been psychotic. And I feel like that's too unstable. That's why the Coulthard theory made a lot of sense to me, because it's like, if I was them, I would be at about my wit's end with what the fuck these assholes are doing, because it's like quite clear that it's completely undemocratic and it's nihilistic and it's so destructive. And if you were sort of taking a hands-off approach, it may be about the time where you were, all right, fuck this. I think that makes perfect sense. Like, they've just been kind of pussyfooting around for the last few decades. Like, ooh, I'm gonna draw some patterns in the ground and see if they see it.
It's stupid. That's why you've seen me been kicking the hornet's nest, and I've been literally calling out names in the government legally. I've not been breaking any laws, but I've been doing legally kicking the hornet's nest as best I can to provoke some type of response.
I mean, that's
like
what I'm saying.
I even got a temporarily banned. I was banned from a couple. I don't go on it often, but on Reddit, I was banned on Reddit after naming some of the people in the government that are literally like gatekeeping this shit.
Yeah, r/UFOs is totally infiltrated.
It's horrible. Yeah, I got banned from there. They're like, long story short, they're like, you're doxing people. But I was like, dude,
they work for the government.
I'm working on. Yeah, I was like, yeah, and
this is from their webpage.
Yeah, I basically, I proved all that, and I got unbanned. Long story short, I got unbanned. I made the Reddit mod basically be like, yeah, you're right.
Wow.
So I like to look at that sometimes, laugh.
Yeah.
But I've exposed at least, like I said, 8 groups. Let me read those off before I
Okay.
get going in a minute. But some of the groups I encountered.
Was that Matt? Was that article about the global access thing? Was that true? You think? Oh, here they are. I see your tweet
No,
right
no, no,
here.
no. That's real. That's real. And I have the new name. Their
Okay.
new name, because they got outed. They got outed by that. Their new
Yeah.
name is T2MC. Trans. Oh, fuck, what's it called? Um. Oh, let me just look it up. Actually,
It's just a tweet right here. Hold on. Um.
it might be. I have your stream off right now. It's called
Um.
T
Yeah.
T2MC with Sheil Patel is the one leading it. But that's the new OGA. That's the new Office of Global Access. That's
Okay.
the new UFO office that snipes down Transnational and Technology Mission Centers, what they're called.
Well, who's they? Jason Group, the Aviary, Majestic 12, Zodiac Group, Collins Elite, SAPOC, SAPCO, and SRG, Jehovah Group, Carlisle Group, DNI, Com 12, Unknown 10th Group. And what was this one? This
Yep.
trans what?
Oh, so that group T2MC, that is,
Oh,
yeah, I
that's
didn't even
it.
put them in there, but that, yeah, that
T2MC.
T2MC is that's the new name of OGA. You know, like you find one of these groups in the
Yeah.
CIA or whatever,
Yeah, I
and
saw
they,
that
they
they
just
changed their
repackage.
name.
They repackage, rename it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Jason Group, I don't know if they're still involved. They're basically a corporate entity. The Aviary, that's the group. I don't know if you've heard about them. That's a bunch of different people going
Mm,
from World War II until allegedly recently MJ12. I'm sure you heard of that group.
yeah.
Zodiac Group 2,
Mm,
Collins Elite. That's the
yeah.
Christians, sycophants, whatever. SAPOC, SAP Code, SRG. That's the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, and then
Oh,
the
yeah,
Special
okay.
Access Program. I forget the other one. Something Office, and SRG is the Strategic Review Group, and those are the ones involved. I'm kind of butchering it because I'm really tired.
That
Yeah, the Jehovah
oversight,
Group too.
is that
What about the
the
oversight
arrow
one?
one? Is that the
Yeah,
arrow one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Arrow overlaps into SAPOC and SAPCO.
Okay.
Their group is
That's the
called,
shot callers.
yeah. That's they change the name because they change the name all the time. Yeah, they're shot callers. That was the guy that was pulling the leash for Kirkpatrick and now
Yeah.
Kozlowski. I forget their exact
Probably
group, but
Susan
I'll get it
Go
back to
too,
you.
right? I mean, that's where she's
Yeah,
probably getting directions from.
yeah, and they're unnamed. I can't find their name, but their name is called like Arrow
I think it's just like
Director
the
or something.
oversight committee or whatever. It's like real
Yeah,
basic.
yeah,
Um,
and then the Carlisle group. I forget about a little bit about that one. DNI. I don't know if you've heard about DNI, but DNI, that's the whole Department of Naval Intelligence.
dude,
That group's real. I found so much evidence on that. I could do like 10 hours and just talk about DNI.
Tulsi's a
But that's
fucking psycho. I don't trust her one bit, man. I
me. Oh
think
yeah, me
she's gonna
either.
be. I saw that Ashton guy was like getting hyped for Tulsi, and I'm like, oh man, Ashton, come on, dog. Because
That
I,
guy's
I
weird.
think he's fucking right about that, by the way. I think that fits perfectly with the Bob Grinier's research, that MH370 video. Um,
Hmm.
I think he's a douchebag, but I think he's right about that. Like, because his shit is basically, it's like, yeah, it's like a great, like, it's Grinier's research. Like he like explains it. Like he shows them like that's it. That's the technology they're using. That explains that explains everything. So I hate to keep saying that, but it's like the energy source because it's like I don't know if you had ideas or whatever, but like element 115, like it's all fucking weird
Hmm.
about what the powering in the engine is, right? This is one
Yeah,
explanation that fucking fits perfectly. It's like you can do transmutation basically. Like you can fuel a starship to Alpha Centauri with like a block of iron. You just get like I think like a couple kilograms of iron. If you are harnessing this properly, you can transmute that and create enough fusion energy to fucking power a spaceship for to the stars. Like it's that kind of
yeah.
technology. Like it's everything. Um,
I think it has to be. I don't even think it can be nuclear. Maybe some of them are nuclear, like say some of the UAP or UFOs or CNR. I don't think they all can be because the Nimitz case.
yeah.
I can't think of his name right now. But the Nimitz case, Dr. Kevin Knuth, he did the math on it that just that Tic Tac did as much, just those couple maneuvers
Mhm.
using today's math or whatever and today's physics. It did as much. I forget what the exact math is, but it did a whole year's worth of the U.S.'s total combined nuclear power output in just a couple minutes of it
It's
going
basically like a
jumping
black hole
around.
drive, right? Like the way
Yeah,
that
yeah. So
Grinier's research goes is like it's like there's a micro
yep,
black hole and it's doing like an alchemical process. Like it turns one element into a different element and it emits a shitload of energy in the process. Um,
yeah. Or
it's
maybe it could be like cold fusion. You said like
yeah,
or
that's what I'm saying.
fusion
That's what it
or
is. So
next
like
generation.
yeah,
But yeah,
it
it's got to be something that we publicly don't have yet, of course. But it could be some of them could be
I
military. Some of
mean
them
that's what I'm
are
saying.
NHI made that we just don't know yet. But it used to. I'm gonna get off here in like 2 more minutes. But I used to rack my brain, and I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is this? But
yeah.
if you don't look at
Listen
this
to
with
that
today's
podcast.
physics, and you take off your hat, and you try to look at this stuff without today's physics, and you go, okay, this is using unconventional, some new type of engine or new type of power source, like you said, or new type of fusion,
Let me
then it
play you
makes
the water
sense.
part. Hold on.
Yeah.
There's one part in here because I would highly recommend watching this episode. Here's this thing. There's
Yeah,
like
I'll
a
have to check it out.
demonstration in the very beginning, and he explains it like
Of
here.
separation.
So
Yin and yang.
you're gonna fucking love this,
Do you
man. I'm
think that
telling you.
this
Like, if you're like me,
technology,
because that's been my main thing this whole time. I've been looking into it because I want to know what the energy source is. Like, what can you do anti gravity? Can those fucking spaceships? What is the fuck is that? That's like been my top thing, right? Like, this explains it. Like this,
Mhm.
it's
so
and like I've seen other people throughout the years that like Jack Sarfati and shit like that, where it's like, oh yeah, that kind of fits, right? But it doesn't fit in the sense that this is something that could have been used in ancient times and continues to be used now. Like it's that elemental. It's really incredible.
you think that people have discovered this
Yeah, I want to know.
technology
I definitely want to know,
in the
dude. These are
past, in the
questions I
20th
always ask
century,
myself because
but
I
do you
want to
think
know.
that the
Dude, I want to
technology
fucking touch a
has
UFO. I've seen
existed
one. I've recorded it.
in
Well, what's the next
prehistory
step?
and
I want to
ancient
touch
human
one,
history?
dude.
Yeah.
It's
If that ever
eternal.
happens. But I was gonna say, what interesting thing too is if you look at Bob Bigelow, what did he do after Bigelow Airspace and OSAP? He did fuck, I always forget the name. Let me go. I have the books on my desk. He started looking at consciousness in the BICS, the Bigelow Institute for
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness Studies. I won essays. I submitted my
Oh, you did?
NDE. Yeah, I submitted my NDE and I won a case of his book. So I have it. And these
Oh,
books say
wow.
winning essays 2023 proof of survival of human consciousness beyond permanent bodily death.
Wow.
So it's just weird how the dude who spent the most money out of anyone out of pocket is Bob Bigelow, who now has Bigelow Airspace too, but he's spending most of his time, I would say, looking into consciousness after death, which is really weird
Yeah,
and
that
something to
all
think
fits
about.
with
But
this. It's like
yeah.
it's
But
I mean, it's like yeah. Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, I'm gonna probably hop off here in the next minute or so. I'm just getting pretty tired. My brain's getting a little scattered.
Oh yeah, no problem. we do this until like the sun comes up. So
Nice. Yeah, I
yeah,
usually catch a stream like when I wake up because I'm on the opposite
yeah.
schedule. I think you usually don't you usually work. You work like
I
crazy
work.
shifts, right?
Yeah, well, I work like in the afternoons. Like I start like at 4 and 5 and work until like midnight. But sometimes I stay late and
Yeah,
so I don't start the stream till late. But like I said, it's just been slowly creeping later. Because I get off work and I want to fucking relax for a minute. I don't feel like going right to the stream, and then it's like, oh god, I gotta get up and go over there. Oh, fuck. All right.
yeah,
So
dude.
then I
And
just
how
like
I
delay.
caught your stream too. I used to be on call a lot for IT, so like people would like whatever issues come up, and so
Mm.
I'd be woken up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes.
Oh
I
hell
couldn't go
yeah.
back to sleep, so I would just smoke a bunch of weed and just throw your stream up on the channel and just shoot the shit. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like one of the only people looking at UFOs, so it's pretty chill.
I mean, I fucking love the stream. It's like I don't do a very good job promoting it because it's like it's like you know all kinds of hassle. Um, it's been like about this size for several years now. Like we haven't really fucking taken the next step, but I feel like that's probably the time. But then I don't know, it doesn't really quite work during other times of day. Like this is kind of like late night chat, which
Yeah,
I mean, not to say that we're not I don't know. I'm pretty serious. Some nights I go fucking hard in the paint, and then like it'll be 6 in the morning. We haven't talked about UFOs at all. Um, and not so much lately though. Because this flap is Like I said, I don't think I gave
Yeah,
it enough
clearly.
attention. I've given it a lot of attention, but not enough. I feel like this is serious. Like, what's this chatter about 2025?
Um,
What do you think?
I think
I've seen like several
2025.
people saying it now. I mean,
Yeah,
could it be that what Coltart was saying about the telepathy? Something with that?
maybe, maybe. I think what people mean. Who was it this morning? Let me go look real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Um, shoot, where is it?
They keep saying like well, it's like they always say that, so I don't want to put any stock into it, but this one seems a little different, a little more substantive. Like some people seem to know already and they can't reveal, right? Like it seems
Yeah,
like all the top
yeah,
guys like are in on some secret, maybe Trump related. Like is Trump
yeah.
gonna
It,
do some
it could
shit?
be.
Dude, Trump should appoint Stephen Greer to like the head of the UFO desk.
Yeah, I saw Matt Ford. You know Matt Ford, the Good Trouble Show. He
Yeah.
tweeted something out about 2025. I don't know squat. The only thing I
Mm.
know is that I personally don't think the government knows shit. So I think that's why they're afraid to say that they're like fully come out and have the president say they're real. Because if they do, they've already said it. But if they come out and legit say, yeah, aliens are real, NHI is real, UAP real, well, then what's the next question going to be? Right now, people are still debating whether it's real or not.
It
Well,
seems
then the
like
next
that's what it
questions are going to be,
yeah.
why were people murdered? You know, David, you know, Phil Schneider, those type of people. Why are people
Yeah.
murdered? All those type of questions come up. So I think deep down, the Pentagon and the deep state and all them are afraid to come out
Mhm.
because not only do they want to keep all the tech and the money for themselves, but they don't want the can of worms to come out again. And they kind of already did that.
They
So that's
can't
why
put
I
it back in
kick
the
them the fucking
jar,
ass.
though. That's what I mean. They
Yeah,
can't.
they
It's
can't.
too late. Like we've hit escape velocity, especially like I said with the science, the research. I'm saying that fusion research, I think, is going to change the world if they let us. Like I feel like they're behind the eight ball. Like I feel like they were
Yeah,
better at shutting down, on unauthorized tech. I mean, because like I said, the way Grenier did his research, he did it outside of like academia, right? So it wasn't the kind of thing where he could be shut down by like deep state moles or whatever, because he was sort of on YouTube doing fucking crowd-funded research. Is one of the only ways I think he was allowed to get that far. I think otherwise he would have been shut down by now. And I worry they're gonna fucking kill him. But he's seems like other people know. It's not just him. Like it's the ideas have spread. Like people are replicating it and stuff. Well, I feel like that's how we're gonna fucking do class war too. Like we need it. I've always been
yeah,
looking. It's been in
exactly.
the back of my mind. I've always been thinking that like we need that one neat trick, like one neat trick to smash capitalism. And I feel like if we can make homemade fucking cold fusion, in our garage, that's a really fucking neat trick. I don't know if it's the neat trick, but it's a neat trick. You know, uh, like what would they even do? Like you could fucking like put together like a guide where you can like make your own reactor for $100 or something. That shit would spread like wildfire. Like,
Yeah, it's only going to be a matter of time because we already know that cold fusion can work. Because look at every single damn fucking star that we look up in the sky. They
mm-hmm,
literally are in the vacuum of space where it's really cold. And what are
mm-hmm,
they? They're literally just a fusion reactor, cold.
mm-hmm.
You know, its own cold fusion reactor. If you kind of think about it,
Yeah, none
not
of them.
astrologist, but
Yeah, I mean, none of them look like our. Well, that's one thing. That's one of some of the research is based off of that. Like when you see a star collapse, you see cold fusion happening in the emissions, right? Like the like nuclear decay, like it happens in a way where they can calculate that it's like fusing and stuff, and transmutation, right? Like that's how we get the heavier elements, right? Transmutation happens every time a star collapses. You know, like we know it's possible. It seems like it'd be easier to do here than in the vacuum of space, like in that kind of situation. Um, just they, like I said, I think they took a wrong turn and the Cold War, and that drove mainstream physics off the eight ball. And I think the deep state they've been on it like at least since Ken Shoulders was researching Hutchison in the 90s, so they've been on it since at least then. Um,
yeah, for sure. But hey, man, I had a
all right.
good time talking to you. We'll
Yeah,
definitely
man.
have to have
Yeah,
more
dude.
talks like this in the future. I had a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah, come back
I'm, you know,
anytime.
I'm literally a chatter, you know, and I enjoy your stream, so it's
If
chill,
you're
you
gonna
know,
be up,
be able to just do stuff.
or watch out for the deep state. Um, You know, they MJ12 is gonna get you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Dom. All right, thanks for coming
Hopefully
on.
not though.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah, no
maybe
worries,
I'll put
dude.
this on the Patreon or maybe I'll put it on a podcast. I haven't done that in a while. I don't know if it's like structured enough to like make clips or whatever, but it's fucking great.
Oh yeah, one more thing too. Hold on.
Mhm.
Yeah, as far as my credentials, I just dude, I'm just like, like a lot of people in chat. I'm a normal person. I'm a normal
Yeah. No, yeah, no.
I'm one of you guys, dude. I'm just a fucking one of
Yeah.
the homies. I'm a normal worker, but I have
Mhm.
equal to, if not greater credentials than Mick West. So I started dunking on him and trolling on him. I'm like, dude, you were in college, when they were using fucking floppy disks and like MDOS. And like I got my degree a couple
Yeah.
years ago, and like he ended up blocking me because like it's literally true. The people that are debunking
Mhm.
and stuff, most of them, not all, but most of them, they don't have credentials for shit. Or you're like Mick West, where he hides behind his Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 and his fancy, spotted ale, spotted dick. He
Yeah.
hides behind his fancy accent, so it gets people. But if you take that away, you're like, this dude got his degree. No offense, but he got his degree in the '80s.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be talking about computers. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
Hey
yeah.
man, yeah, I had a good time talking to you, dude.
Yeah, we love ripping the debunkers to shreds. All right, man. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Take it easy. I'll catch a stream, and I'll definitely come back on here another time
Oh,
for
and I
sure.
think, do you want to link anything? I think we linked your Twitter. We'll link your TikTok. Yeah, I like your TikToks.
Yeah, yeah. If you want, you can. I mainly use Twitter, but
Okay.
I started making TikToks um, because I've had experiences. I haven't talked about some of my darker ones. But I've had
Ooh.
some pretty dark experiences, so I started making them to help like destigmatize not only the subject for
Yeah. No, I
myself but
like
for
that.
other people
Good
too.
morning.
No, I
Yeah,
mean,
because you know what I
especially
mean.
on the
You
left,
do
like I
that.
said, it's like the left
Yeah,
is what needs to change because I feel like the fucking mindset is an important part of it. Like that's the whole aspect of it, of like in that telepathy thing. I know you're trying to go. There's a part where
no, it's all good.
there's like a debunker in the room who's like, okay, this is bullshit. They're gonna fail or whatever, and then the kid starts like not performing, like not that they couldn't, but that they wouldn't, sort of. And then they like make the debunker leave. So it makes me think that like there's some aspect of that where there's like a vibe dimension where the sort of negativity, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of like, because you expect everything to be shit and get worse and no hope, it sort of brings that about, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
makes sense.
I think this is the most for someone on the left. This is the most encouraging thing we have. Like, I mean, I know people like the labor movement or whatever is like, sure, but I mean, between China and this, I think that's all we got. you know.
Yeah, and plus
Um.
we need a little distraction
Mm,
sometimes because can be draining, especially right now with we have all these wars going on
mm,
in Gaza. It's not a war; it's literally a genocide. But we
yeah.
have
Yeah.
all this stuff going on. It's nice to have that. This is still, I think, an attack vector that we can still get leftist values out of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm really far left. Like I don't go out there and tell people, but I'm a socialist. I'm
Yeah.
further left than socialist, but I don't usually say it on electronic devices. But I'm a
Yeah.
very far left of socialist, and
Yeah.
you in UFO stuff in this space. There's a lot of people that are far right, so I like that
I
I
know,
can
right?
stake my flag, or or go to the electronic basketball court and be like, yo guys, like you're here, well I'm here too. So what's up?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and
Yeah, we need to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. One other thing too, before I get out of here, I was supposed to have a debate tonight with a guy about Bob Lazar,
Oh
and it ended
yeah.
up not happening. But I probably would have destroyed him because I've looked into this case so much that I have probably 10 data points that people don't even know
You
existed.
think it's
So
pro Bob Lazar?
yeah, no, I'm pro Bob
Oh,
Lazar.
okay.
100%. I'm almost 100%. Yeah,
I mean, you'll have
I
to
can go
come
into that another
convince
reason
me.
why.
I
But
mean,
one reason why I think it is, or I'll give two reasons why in under a minute. But his W-2 is real. When he was in court,
yeah.
in August 1990, I found the video of him in the courtroom of the judge reading off his W-2, Department of Naval Intelligence W-2. It's real. I also have the Naval Intelligence reading back saying that it's real. So the Naval Intelligence, the U.S. Navy saying that the W-2 is real, but the Navy, but they're saying that the DNI isn't real. So W-2 is real, and then I'm sure you've heard of all the other
I mean, it's
stuff.
in the
But
phone book, you know.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I
yeah,
don't think. I mean, I think he definitely was there and all. I just like I don't know. I go back
yeah.
and
We'll
forth on
see.
him. I'm all over the place. I think like you know, like the okay, I don't want to get into it now, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah, we can do it another time. But yeah, I had a good time talking, man.
hell yeah.
I'll catch the rest of the stream tomorrow. But yeah, I'm gonna hop off here, go to bed. But see
Okay.
you, chat. Yeah, later, dude. It
Later.
was yeah,
Heck
it was
yeah.
nice talking to you, bro. Catch you
Yeah, for
later.
sure.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Anyway, um, so that was great. Um, I feel like I don't know, maybe we can look at Lazar again. I don't know. My current what I was thinking was that he like I'm not I think it's probable, you know, that like shit was going on out there in in that time period, but like I'm not sure it's like his involvement is what I was like, you know, what if he had a job sort of like, you know, um where's the W-2s from Los Alamos, right? Like if he had that there and sort of was hanging out in the scene, you know, at like the local bars and hanging out with John Lear and stuff. Um and sort of heard the story through osmosis and then, you know, adopted it as his own. Um there's also the story about like, yeah, he was working there and they were doing classified research. But like he, you know, was in trouble for fucking going to the taking his friends to see the classified tests because he knew that. And didn't John Lear say that the CIA wanted him to spread that story? Doesn't he say that later in life? Um, I heard a clip of him the other day talking about that. Um, mm, Peanut. Um, I wonder if there's like a classified addendum to PNAC that's all about alien tech and shit.